All right, I'd like to ask everybody to settle down. We're going to start the meeting. Welcome. Okay, thank you. Welcome to this evening's Town Board meeting on Monday, April 29, 2024. Tonight's meeting we're holding in memory of Laura Ehrenreich. Laura was a long-term employee of Youth and Recreation until her departure. The funeral was held this past weekend. It's certainly taken its toll on our department. That department does a lot for the community. Tonight we have Laura, the Youth and Rec Department, and Laura's family in our thoughts and our prayers. With that, I'd ask everybody please rise for a Pledge of Allegiance. With that, I would ask our town clerk to please call the roll.
Supervisor Copa.
Here.
Councilmember Berger.
Here.
Councilmember Zuccalla.
Here.
And Councilmember Marinucci.
Here.
First item on our agenda is the approval of minutes from Monday, March 25th, 2024. I'll motion to adopt them as they appeared in the agenda.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
We have three public hearings this evening. The first of which is Resolution 338, Boulevard Central Sanitary Sewer Improvements, or bond resolution. The second is a Resolution 339, an extension of the Consolidated Lighting District for Miller's Crossing. Third is Resolution 340, an extension of the Consolidated Lighting District for Harding Road subdivision. I ask our town attorney to please read our rules of order at this time.
Good evening. I'll review with you now the town board's rules of order with regard to decorum, public hearings, and public expression. For your convenience, there are copies of the full rules of order available for review in the container attached to the doorway to this chamber. There you'll also find copies of tonight's agenda. Rules of order and full agenda packets are also available on the town's website. With regard to decorum must be maintained throughout tonight's meeting. Pursuant to the rules of order, speakers shall address the board as a whole and refrain from partisan political commentary, personal, impertinent, slanderous, or profane remarks, catcalls, noisemakers, and other outbursts that disrupt the order of the meeting. Any person who makes such remarks or otherwise disrupts the meeting with loud outbursts, shouting, threats, or other disruptive behavior shall, at the discretion of the supervisor or after a motion and majority consensus of the board, be ruled out of order. With regard to public hearings, as the supervisor mentioned, there are 3 public hearings scheduled for tonight. The petitioner may present for up to 15 minutes. Following the petitioner, a neighborhood representative or their attorney may have 15 minutes to comment on the subject of the hearing. Thereafter, all other speakers of a public hearing may only speak once and comment for up to 3 minutes. The town clerk will ring a bell once to let you know when you have 30 seconds remaining. The town clerk will ring the bell a second time when your time is finished. When the second bell rings, please return to your seat. Written comments may be submitted at any time prior to the close of the hearing and will be included as part of the official record for the hearing. With regard to public expression, there are 2 opportunities for you to address the board with comments on topics not covered within public hearing scheduled for tonight. Per the rules of order, the purpose of public expression is to allow the opportunity for the public to formally comment with the board on any matter involving Amherst. This is not designed to be a conversation with the board, but an opportunity for the public to express their opinion on issues that the board will cover during that meeting or to bring to attention an issue involving Amherst. Speakers may comment for up to 3 minutes. Again, the town clerk will ring the bell once when you have 30 seconds remaining and twice when your time is finished. There's a sign-up sheet at the podium for you to indicate your interest in speaking. Once those that have signed up are finished, the supervisor will ask if there are any additional speakers who would like to comment. A reminder that decorum must be maintained. All remarks shall be addressed to the board as a whole and not to any single member thereof. In the event that the speaker's inquiry is urgent or their comment is accurate, the supervisor or a town board member may respond for 1 minute after closing public expression. Thank you for adherence to these town board's rules of order.
Okay, with that, I'm going to motion open the first public hearing tonight, Resolution 2024-338, Boulevard Central District Sanitary Sewer Improvements.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Jeff?
Good evening. My name is Jeff Burrows. I am the Town of Amherst Town Engineer. Thank you, Supervisor Culpa, members of the board. The issue tonight before you is the public hearing for the project known as the Boulevard Central District Sanitary Sewer Improvements, otherwise known as 2024 CIP Project S4. Tonight's presentation will cover the following issues. I'm going to talk about the background and the problem definition, which also includes ongoing initiatives and projects that we are continuing to move forward on in the town of Amherst. Then I'm going to talk about the proposed capital improvements, which include a West Side Interceptor diversion pump station and force main construction, and the North Bailey Sanitary Sewer Extension construction. I will then talk about the project schedule, the financial summary, and then I will open it up to questions. I'm going to go into the background a little bit here chronologically so that the audience and the board understands the issues here. So the modern sanitary sewer systems construction began in the 1920s, started in Eggertsville, Snyder. Anybody who's aware of the geologic conditions there knows that there's high bedrock, low groundwater. In the 1926-27, a sewage treatment plant was constructed on North Forest Road behind the Highway Department. In the ensuing years, there was exponential growth of Amherst post-World War II. The sewers that were constructed in the 50s and 60s weren't necessarily very well constructed with poor materials of construction. In the 1970s, the federal government construction grants program assisted the town and constructed the modern interceptor system and the modern plant that we have on Tonawanda Creek Road. So is the system currently exists right now in the town of Amherst? We have 548 miles of sanitary sewer in Amherst, 38 lift stations, a water pollution control facility, the treatment plant on Tonawanda Creek Road, with a daily average capacity of 48 million gallons per day, and then 3 intermunicipal partners in the village of Williamsville, Erie County 5, and the town of Clarence. Is the population evolved in the town? There were significant issues with wet weather flows in the 1970s and 1980s, causing localized backups. There were several issues in Eggertsville and in the Snyder area. There was a significant focus on that time on studying and formalizing a plan to reduce those SSOs and hence localized wet weather flow issues. In 1986, the town had 13 active SSOs in the town, sanitary sewer overflow points. Moving forward to the 1990s, there was a significant change in the technology that the department used to employ a proactive cleaning and closed-circuit televising program to minimize backups and reduce some of those localized flows. The CIP projects at the time were focused on capacity improvements, basically upsizing pipe and removing bottlenecks. In 2007, the New York State DEC came in and slapped an order of consent on the town of Amherst to reduce the further SSOs that we had. At the time, the town only had 3 active SSOs. There was an engineer's report that was prepared outlining 25 capital projects with the goal of SSO reduction and then elimination. Those capital projects were completed in 2021. There was a reduction in SSO quantity and volume of discharge. Also, in 2014, the New York State DEC required and mandated an I&I reduction program focused on developer-funded improvements. I&I, for those who are not familiar with the term, stands for inflow and infiltration. Inflow is direct sources of non-sanitary flow into sanitary sewers. Think of a sump pump discharging directly or a storm drain. Infiltration is high groundwater that gets into holes in pipes, disjointed pipes, cracks in pipes, manholes that are leaking, etc. So that program required a formal downstream sewer capacity analysis to be submitted for proposed development projects. The town of Amherst also developed and adopted a private lateral replacement policy. That policy mandated that new development project sponsors had to replace an equivalent number of laterals to cover peak flow. That particular initiative, we replaced 83 private sewer laterals. Fast forward to 2017, we had a significantly wet spring. April of 2017 was the rainiest spring that we've had to date. At the time, there was an analysis of the lateral replacement program, and we determined that it was not very effective. The developers got more out of it than the town did. So we changed it and modified the program and required payment for I&I mitigation from the developers that is deposited in a trust and agency account for future use. That program has yielded $1,600,000 paid in mitigation funds that we have used and continue to use to line sewers and manholes. We also added a time of sale inspection program that requires us to inspect all houses that are sold prior to sale, or all houses that are going to be sold prior to sale that are aged 1965 and older to reduce private side inflow sources. To date, we have inspected 3,500 houses. The future I&I work that we're going to continue is another DEC required program where we developed a capacity management operations and maintenance program. That document and program was approved in 2023, and that requires an annual evaluation of a mini system. There are about 30 mini systems in the town as it currently resides. Each year we have to study the mini system. The following years we have to do the rehabilitation work. Currently we're evaluating mini system 1, which is Eggertsville proper, bounded by Eggert, Kenmore Avenue, Niagara Falls Boulevard, and Bailey Avenue. Even with all that work, this is a profile of the West Side Interceptor under storm conditions, a 5-year, 6-hour storm. What this shows is a cut section through that pipe from the intersection of approximately Sheridan Drive beyond the 990. The blue line that's up top is the hydraulic grade line. So what that means is if you were to pull a manhole at Millersport Highway under storm conditions, the sewage would be right at the top of right at the top of that manhole. Hence the need for this project. This is a really poor figure showing the location of the treatment plant up here and the West Side Interceptor that basically runs north-south from the 990 along the 290 interchange out to Sheridan Drive. With that, in 2019, we added this project to the CIP. So in 2018, we were considering the construction of a West Side Interceptor diversion facility. The study was commenced in 2020, completed in 2021. There were 3 alternatives that were considered: a parallel interceptor costing $82 million, enhanced I&I mitigation, which was lining, manhole rehab, additional private side I&I improvements for $180 million, or the project that we chose, which is the pump station and force main project at $30 million. Additionally, when we were considering some of the additional sewer projects in the town, we also had thought about replacing the Niagara Falls Boulevard sanitary sewer. That project was added to the CIP in 2020. That particular sewer has localized backups and also surcharge manholes. We have recently lined that sewer and replaced a section of it due to an issue that we had about a year and a half ago. However, the replacement of the continuous replacement of that sewer from about Outback Steakhouse down to Maple is going to be an extremely expensive venture. So we've pivoted. Back to the West Side Interceptor diversion project. The project consists of the construction of a diversion structure with an adjustable weir, construction of a 15 million gallon per day pump station, construction of approximately 11,400 lineal feet of 24-inch PVC force main, and construction of a discharge chamber at the Peanut Line Interceptor on Sweet Home Road. And what the facility is going to do is during wet weather and high surcharge conditions, we're going to draw that surcharge off the West Side Interceptor and pump it to the Peanut Line. The Peanut Line at Sweet Home Road has significant capacity. So in essence, we're shifting the deck chairs here. This figure here shows a cut of the engineering drawing of the pump station area. This area is to the south and west here is Sweet Home Road. Up to the northeast is the UB Library Annex. And there's a diversion chamber on site, an electrical building on site for controls and switchgear, a generator building, and a large pump station with, 4 submersible pumps. The force main, the route is from that pump station down Wrench, across Sweet Home, down Sweet Home Road, all the way to the Peanut Line, which is just beyond Ellicott Creek. That's about 11,400 lineal feet. This is a depiction of the hydraulic gray line under the same storm conditions after construction of the pump station. And you will notice that the hydraulic gray line, although it's still surcharging, is not surcharging up to the manhole. It's dropped about 10 feet. So what this will, in essence, do is reduce surcharges in those neighborhoods just adjacent to the West Side Interceptor, off Sweet Home Road, off Sheridan Drive, etc. The North Bailey Avenue sewer construction, as I said, we pivoted on this project. Originally, we were going to replace the Niagara Falls Boulevard sewer in its entirety. That would have been a logistical nightmare, and it would have required easements because we wouldn't have been able to afford nor construct it in the right-of-way of Niagara Falls Boulevard. So we looked at North Bailey, which does not have a sanitary sewer on it right now and is wide open. And we determined that to pivot to the North Bailey construction. Obviously, that type of pivot saves the town significant dollars. And what we're going to do is construct 5,200 lineal feet of 18-inch sewer from Maple Road to Ridgely Road. And what it's going to allow us to do is intercept sewage that's going down Maple Road right now to Niagara Falls Boulevard, reduce the surcharges on Niagara Falls Boulevard itself. This is a depiction of the route of the sanitary sewer. On the lower portion of the schematic here, you see Maple Road, and then it traverses through the Tops parking lot, up Meyer, up North Bailey, up to Ridgely, and connects in. So, the project schedule for these two projects. The West Side Interceptor Diversion Facility, that is currently undergoing final design. 90% construction documents have been delivered to the town. They are soon to go into regulatory review. So the pump station construction is slated for the fall of 2024 and through the fall of 2026. It is a large pump station. It is deep, about 55 feet. The force main construction is slated, which will be a separate contract, is slated to be constructed from spring of 2025 to the fall of 2026. North Bailey sanitary sewer construction, that one's a little closer. We've got the final design plans. I believe they're undergoing regulatory review right now, and we're anticipating starting the construction of that sometime this summer. It's about a construction season long, that construction project. So the financial summary. So the project, the engineering design on the project for both projects is about $3 million. The construction of both projects combined is $39 million. The legal administrative fees, which is about 0.5% of the bond cost, is $55,000 for the total cost of $42 million. However, we are receiving an Empire State grant of $31 million, which is $31 million offset, which means that the long-term bond request is $11 million. Also, because the bond is a reimbursement-only bond, or I'm sorry, the grant is a reimbursement-only grant, we need to secure short-term funding to pay the contractors prior to being reimbursed by the state. So we're going to take an extra $10 million in short-term funding, which ultimately will be returned back. So the bond authorization tonight is for $21 million. The long-term bond, as I said, is $11 million, 30 years. The annual tax impacts are 3 cents per thousand assessed, or about $9.41 per year for 300,000. The short-term bond is $10 million, and that's anticipated to be a 2 to 3 year bond, and the annual impacts are 2 cents per thousand, or $5.92 per year per 300,000. And with that, I'll turn it over to the board for questions or comments.
Go ahead.
Thank you. I have 3. If you can back it up to one of the early slides. I'm sorry. What? Oh. Hi. I have just 3 questions. One of the early slides. I'm sorry.
Sure.
All right. Because obviously we've read material on this, but you said something today that I didn't see. I think it's the second slide. One more. One more. Yeah. You were saying that New York State restricted our SSOs. Why did they do that?
They didn't restrict us. They mandated that we get rid of them.
Why? All right. Once again, why did they do that?
Well, because SSOs are untreated sewage. So what happens is when you've got a hydraulically restricted sewer, what we typically do is we pump right out of the sanitary to the storm system. A lot of the SSOs that were removed and mitigated in the 90s and the early 2000s were just automatic overflows. They overflow, they went to a wet well, they were pumped to the sanitary. The 2 that we have remaining, we actively have to check them, actively have to put out a pump, actively have to turn that pump on, and then release the sewage. And and they don't like SSOs. They're generally not permitted. But they realize the fact that the sewer systems are 100 years old and they weren't designed for the current wet weather flows that you're having.
Okay. My second point, and as a traffic safety person, I saw that you're going to be doing much of the road work pretty much the same time. So when you say it's all going to take place during a construction season, two major thoroughfares in the town of Amherst are going to be ripped up for 4 months?
So the Bailey Avenue area is going to be a construction zone for a construction season, so 6 months.
6 months.
6 to 8 months, yeah.
All right. And then the last question, which I think these folks are all thinking too. This is a lot of money. What happens if we don't do it? What? Oh, what happens if we don't do it?
Okay, so if you don't do it, we're going to end up with more SSOs on the West Side Interceptor. The sewer at North Ivyhurst and Sheridan is going to continue to overflow. That is an unpermitted SSO point. So the reason that we're doing this particular project is to draw that down and provide some relief there. One of the
Okay.
reasons.
And just to clarify one thing, when you say it's unpermitted by New York State?
Yes.
Okay.
Okay, Jeff, so just for everybody's sake, we talk a little bit about mitigation tables that were put in place with the EIS in the Boulevard Central District?
Yes.
Okay.
Yes.
Can you talk a little bit about how those work?
Okay, so I already talked about the I&I mitigation that we get from developers for any project. Any project that requires a sanitary sewer extension, we charge the developers $250 per gallon per minute of peak flow multiplied times 4. So we routinely see checks of $50,000 to $150,000 that end up in our trust and agency account. On the Central District, we have an alternative mitigation that's also being attached to any sewer improvement that might occur in the district or tangentially help the district. So for these two projects, they're slated to pull in, if the Boulevard Central District gets developed the way it's supposed to, or the way that it's planned in the EIS, we're going to get approximately $9 million in developer-funded mitigation for these projects.
Okay, thank you. Are there any other questions from this board? Okay, if there's questions from the audience,
I just have one minor thing. In the summary, it says that it is possible that this will mitigate the final 2 SSOs. How likely do you think that is? And would we be moving away from the SSOs entirely, or is there a likelihood that they will continue?
Well, it's going to definitely take care of the one on North Ivyhurst. The one on Capon, maybe. The one on North Drive and Eggert, probably not. That is too far away, too far upstream to really help that one. There is some additional work that has to be done over there. We've lined a lot of the sewers. We've done the manholes. We just have not taken care of the private connections. That's an issue that's a sticky wicket for municipalities.
okay. With that, if you're interested in commenting or asking questions about this project, I'm going to ask you to come forward, state your name and address for the record.
I don't know which one of these things work here, but Don Smith, North Long. Don Smith, North Long. Sounds that good? Is that good enough? How's this? Okay. This is a long-standing and highly expensive project, and the engineering behind this is extensive. I'm more interested in the process of how comfortable of a solution does the town engineering department have that will solve all the problems. For instance, have they run a simulation of this process either by computer or any other physical means? Have they simulated any portions of this project in any way, physical or with computer means? Do these simulations have a process where we can find out what the excess capacity would be under top load conditions, what that would look like? Is this a solution which would be better suited to a more expensive solution? For instance, where we get a 10% excess capacity or a 20% excess capacity out of the project. The question is, what's the possibility of having to come back here in 3 to 4 to 5 years and find out that we're going to have to put in another 20 million on this project? So today it's essentially what's called the efficiency of the solution and how it's been modeled and how it's going to be processed and how it's going to be analyzed. For instance, how much personnel, equipment, and materials is needed to maintain the daily operation of this during peak conditions. Is it going to take 1 person, 10 people, 20 people? Is this an automated solution? Is this a semi-automated solution? How does this thing really work? What is the probabilities of failure at any one major failure points in the system? What's the probability that one of these would fail? What are the failover conditions that you would have in case one point fails? And how would you handle the failure conditions? That sort of thing. And when it comes to the financing of this, it seems to be 42 million, where they say 31 million comes from the state and federal government. Is that money now currently in hand, and do we know that we have it in hand? And is it signed off on by the state and the federal government? And do we have it now? Do we know we've got that money? That sort of thing. Secondarily, we know that we're going to have to run a construction bond on this, and we're going to have to do an awful lot of. I'm more concerned about the side effects of these projects and what they're going to do. And as you mentioned, what's going to happen to the driving, what's going to happen to the water during the processes of construction, during an event, those sorts of things. I have a lot of trust in Jeff. I know he's a good man, and I've seen him work for a long time. Thank you very much.
Jeff, you want to answer questions about simulations?
So the project actually started with hiring a consultant to prepare a swim model of our interceptors. And the reason that we did that was to determine how much capacity we had, and also to utilize that to determine the effects of potential development on the interceptor system. We spun that into what if we do this, or what if we do that? So we went through several scenarios with that consultant. And then we brought in another consultant who actually started advancing the design work of the project. So we have full confidence in our model. This particular type of project has been done before. I worked on a similar project for Erie County Southtown Sewer District when I worked at URS Corporation back in the early 2000s, and we did the exact same thing. We took surcharging sewers, diverted it to the plant with a pump station. I think so. There's no real. It's not extremely complicated. The variability in the project is we can adjust the weir on the overflow chamber. So what we'll do is we'll toy with that under certain wet weather conditions, see what gives us the optimal hydraulic grade line lowering, and then we'll probably set it there. It's anticipated that this actual sewer will work less than 10, this will probably be 10 times a year or less. But what it does is it provides us protection from overflows on the west side interceptor. As far as additional personnel, yes, there will be somebody that will have to maintain the system. We will have to clean the wet well. We will have to flush the force main or push what they call a pig through it occasionally to make sure that it's cleaned out. So those maintenance tasks are generally known. If anybody's got real specific questions, our consultant is here, GHD. There's several engineers and the principal on this project that are available here to talk about it.
Okay. Regarding the funding, I'm just going to say that the 31 million receivable from the state has to go through one final step with regards to Empire State Development's board. We have to take an authorization action prior to that. Once we take our authorization action, then they will go and do their authorization action. We can't, I mean, we're not borrowing until, we don't borrow this time of year, so our borrowing wouldn't happen until October at this point. So we would anticipate that they would take an action this spring.
One other thing I'd like to add, Supervisor. So again, this is not necessarily the silver bullet. There's more work to be done. We do have lining to do in Eggertsville, lining to do in Snyder. This is one of a multiple projects that have to be done. But this one gets us bang for our buck right now.
Thank you. There's more people coming up. Please come forward, state your name and address for the record.
Gina Gentry, Bissell Drive, Amherst. I find it funny, Mike, that you asked about how much this is going to cost when you're about to spend about the same amount to put a petting zoo at Westwood. So my question to the board is, if you knew that this was something that needed to be done, why didn't you put the 11.4% tax increase towards this instead of making our town into a funny farm and making it look ridiculous with all these lights that don't work? This is another tax increase that's coming, another one. But this takes priority over your petty projects that are just going up all over the place. And I really hope, Brian, that you get that $31 million because you definitely went to that Bills game to achieve that. So, question, is this part of the 11.4%? I know the answer, but is it?
This is it's a bond that we
I
have.
can't hear you.
We've not yet taken action on this borrowing.
Okay, but my question was this part of the 11.4%?
Actually, you are out of order.
I'm not out of order.
We are speaking. Mike?
I asked a question.
We are only supposed to be discussing this project.
I did ask a question about this project, Jackie.
On the question, the 11.4% tax increase for this operating budget deals with some of the soft costs that were shown, but does not account for the bond action. The bond action is a bond action in the sewer district, and it would be applied, basically, we would see the effects of that starting in 25 and 26.
So that's going to increase our taxes again. So would you be willing to forego your precious pet project at Westwood and do this?
If you look at I will just say that if you look at tonight's CIP amendment, you'll notice that we've already addressed several other CIP items relative to this project and this project's funding.
Okay. And Jackie, if you don't like the fact that someone's going to ask a question, I suggest you walk through that door.
Dan, please go ahead.
Dan Ryder, 38 Garden Parkway in the Village. I'd like to point out something that's kind of nice, I think. New York State has gifted the town $31 million. It's a gift. I wouldn't kick the gift horse too hard before they take it away, because then we'll end up paying for the $31 million. Anyway, that's a $42 million job. The state kicks in $31 million, the town pays $11 million, and if you don't do this job, somebody probably goes to jail, okay? But we're not here to discuss that tonight. My question is, the $10 million of interim financing that the town has to carry for 2 or 3 years to really finance this project, can we pay that out of reserve funds?
No, we wouldn't be able to do that out of reserve. We would certainly try to limit our short-term borrowing as much as we can, but we have done a cash flow analysis, and it would wreak havoc on the sewer in the sewer reserve. So what we're looking at, again, if you heard the conversation, with the Boulevard district specifically being heavy commercial, there is a mitigation table that was put in place when we did our EIS a couple of years ago, anticipating that we were going to have heavy infrastructure costs, and a lot of the $10 million that will be needed, right, is derived, or a lot of our bond action is derived, almost $9 million, from projected development in that area through mitigation fees. So while, yes, we have to hold and have some carry on the interest relative to the short-term borrowing, our overall synopsis is pretty good, because projects like Costco, projects like the future Boulevard Mall project, projects like those being done by Northtown Auto will pay into a mitigation table specifically to offset this infrastructure cost.
Well, that's good. And I don't claim to understand half of what you said, but the state controller has many opinions of things, and I don't necessarily agree with all of them, don't understand the rest of them. But anyways, I Googled it last night, and the state controller actually encourages using reserve funds to minimize bond costs and taxes. So my final question, I think, is how much is our reserve fund today?
Linda or Daryl's in the room, but I mean, I couldn't tell you offhand what the reserve is. But I mean, generally speaking, if our reserve for sewer, again, this is sewer funded, our reserve for sewer funds is probably, in single-digit millions. But we can't completely wipe out a reserve fund, because in January and February, you use the reserve to cover operating expenses until you've received tax revenue, right? So that reserve functions as a rainy day reserve, but it also functions as your cash flow, component at the beginning of the year, so the first quarter.
Well, isn't the town, it's suggested that the town have a reserve based on the total budget, not just the sewer portion?
That's correct, but each fund has independent reserves of at least 10%.
Okay. Do we have enough money to finance this ourselves?
Not in that fund. Yes, if we used all of our fund balances, but again, it's restrictive because it's the sewer fund specifically.
Well, I think we need more numbers in the analysis, and I would hope that I would hope that the board would table this thing tonight to modify this analysis.
The fund balance analysis already happened prior to us even getting to this step tonight. So we know we can't do that out of fund balance. Thank you.
Well, you haven't proven it to me. There's another thing that's left out of here. To run a 24-inch pump takes a heck of a lot of electricity. And I didn't see that mentioned in here or verbally tonight. One thing to keep in mind. Thank you.
Hi, thank you for the time to speak. I'm Julie Van Lente of Parkwood Drive in Snyder, Amherst. I never know which microphone is going to, this one? This one, okay, sorry. Obviously, we need improvements. The costs, I'm speaking tonight to call attention to cost concerns that are unknown, which will be related to the Westwood property plan for the Amherst Central Park.
So this, we're only speaking, you can come back.
Relate to runoff and things too.
It doesn't matter. Tonight we're specific, this public hearing is specific to this bond authorization.
Okay, I was looking through and.
You can come back in public expression
Okay.
with that topic.
All righty, so over here, and I will do so. So thank you. And I'll get out of the way in just a second. Sorry.
Okay.
Joe Watovich, 35 B. Cyrus. I was taking a look at the costing on this, and it occurred to me, I was comparing it with the Bill Stadium building process and how they were talking about a 20% cost overrun on that. If you take the $42 million they had 20% on, and I presume the town would be financing that whole overrun, that would almost double the cost of this from $11 million to almost $20 million. Has the town taken that into consideration at all, and what's going to really cost on the end? Another thing that wasn't mentioned was that this project seems to be pushed on because of the Boulevard Mall project. It states specifically in the executive summary. It is assumed that a methodical approach to the removal alone, it's hard to read in the light here, and will not yield the capacity necessary in the West Side Interceptor in a time frame amenable to the Boulevard Central District infrastructure redevelopment. So that about sums it up right there. Without the Boulevard Mall project, this doesn't seem to be necessary at this time. They do have other options available, but I don't know if I trust the numbers on that, seeing that the numbers were triple, quadruple what the $30 million was, makes it seem like it's a drop in the bucket. Now, it was interesting, too, because recently I was reading an article in the Buffalo News on an issue that the town of Cheektowaga was having with an $11 million project, comparable to the Music Fair one, except they were arguing the $11 million to redo their sewer system. Seeing that Amherst has this, again, as a referring problem here, they cancel all the other side projects on this and concentrate on what we really need now, which is the sewer system. Thank you.
So I'll just say that escalation was built into the estimates, project escalation, and the mall was the catalyst to help land the state funds. This project started a long time prior to us ever thinking we would be involved with the mall project. The mall and the mall development also is the catalyst for a lot of the mitigation fees that we're projecting that will ultimately help us pay back the debt. But the SSO and the need for this project has existed for a long time.
Okay. Matt Plunkett, North Hill Drive. While I was standing in line, I was listening to the discussion about the 31 million being given to us by the governor to help fund this project, and the town coming up with, excuse me, an additional $11 million on their own. And I sat there and I counted the pockets on my jeans. There's one for the town of Amherst, one for the county of Erie, one for the state of New York, and one for the United States government. If it's tax money that's being spent, it's coming out of one of those pockets. It's coming out of our pockets. It doesn't matter who's spending it. It doesn't matter who's spending it. And I will say, Mr. Zuccalla, I do agree with you to some extent about the $11 million. After all this project will do is reduce basement flooding, street flooding. It will prevent the intermixture of storm sewer water with sanitary sewer water and those types of things. It's not nearly as important as spending $11 million to build a theater you're going to give away to others.
Good evening. Dennis Hoban, 216 California Drive, Williamsville, New York. I believe if on the surface this looks like a project that we have to do, and I think these are the types of projects that the town should be concerned with more than, building sports centers and theaters and things like that. This is maintaining infrastructure. And so maintaining infrastructure and providing services is what municipalities should be doing, not all the other nonsense. So the other thing that I don't like is I don't like borrowing money for like a gap, We're borrowing the project, we need 11 million and you're going to borrow 10 million just to see it through temporarily. I never thought that was a good way for government to operate. Thank you.
Thank you.
Allison Saygraves, Amherstdale. Let me write my name down. All right, so first of all, I would like to thank the town engineer for sharing your expertise with us. That was very enlightening. I would also suggest that when we have a discussion like this involving a major bond, that we have the comptroller here so that we can understand if there are questions about the numbers, that we get accurate numbers and that we understand what the different funds are. That should be something that is readily answered by a professional in this town and not something that that can't be answered. Secondly, my concern is that I agree with the other speakers that this is the type of thing I would expect a town would be spending money on. When I added up the linear feet of these two initiatives, it came to approximately 15 or 16,000, which, remembering what I learned in second grade, that's about 3 miles. And I believe on slide 2, it says that the town has 548 miles of sewer. So what I would like to understand is how much has been put in the budget over the next 5 years, for example, that's already been accounted for infrastructure maintenance and upgrades for this significantly aging sewer system that's already been accounted for in your 5-year forecast for the CIP.
Sure, Jeff, I don't know if that's something that you or Shelley could answer offhand. I mean, we've spent about $1.5 million on sewer lining annually since I took office. I think we've put.
We'd like to spend about $1.5 million every year for the repair and lining.
Jeff, could you go to the microphone?
Our target is to spend about $1 million to $1.5 million every year on the repair of sanitary sewer. Remember that when we're lining sewers, it's significantly less costly than cutting and covering. The cost to line an 8-inch sewer, Vishali, is that about $38 a foot?
Depending on the size, but
So it costs about $38 a lineal foot to line 8-inch pipe. So to date, we've lined about 23, 24 miles of pipe in the town.
All right, so I guess my question is, just looking at the absolute numbers, $1.5 million seems like a very small amount of money to be spending on a very dated, massive infrastructure. And so I'm just trying to understand if we've accounted for the next project like this in the 5-year projection of the budget.
Yes, so that's just the lining project. It doesn't include money that we've put into treatment plants or money that we've incurred dealing with pump stations. The next project or the next iteration actually has to deal with the east side of the town, and there's a project currently moving, which is a study to deal with the east side interceptor. That's a trickier project because it also involves Clarence and Erie 5 districts. So we've been reluctant to fund that in full. We need to make sure that they're providing us their 2/3 of that, roughly 2/3 of that share. But that project is moving forward. It is projected in the CIP. As I said, there's a rather large CIP amendment in this evening's board agenda as well that takes into account the need for some of these projects and pulls other stuff out of the CIP in their place. The goal of this town board has been to deal with the components of the treatment plant and the sanitary sewer as we can and as we can find additional funding. So our next large project of the treatment plant will likely be a cryogenic facility that we're going to have to build because the cost of making or replacing oxygen is going to be pretty high. So those items balance out other items, and as we move forward with studies like this, we try to find grants. We have in fact found one for this. So this project's crystallized and we're moving forward with it.
So when the controller thinks about subsequent years and what the fixed costs of the town are these costs figured into the fixed costs? Because you are required by
Yes.
the controller of the state to manage to the cap, which 3 times you haven't done. So I just want some level of understanding, perhaps not assurance, understanding that you are contemplating the costs of maintaining our sewer system in future years, and that is counted as a fixed cost that has to come underneath the allowed cap.
They are.
Not as a surprise project that's going to send the budget over cap. This is what we expect to spend. And we
will say
expect
that
your variable spending
last thing I'll
to
say-
cease so that these kinds of things are funded.
The last thing I'll say is the first time that projects like this got put into a 5-year projection was back in 2018. We started to project those costs moving forward. Prior to when I came into office, we did not project our sewer costs. So,
All right, well, I would like to thank the engineer, and I think more transparency on these costs and future costs would certainly be welcome as you passed your Transparency Act.
Gemma Zotera, Little Robin, Amherst. I live on a cul-de-sac with 7 houses. We've had 5 sinkholes, and there's another one that I just saw this morning. When we had, and I've spoken to you personally, and you told me to make an appointment with you, but I never got that appointment, even though I called numerous times. I know. When we had the water main break on Campbell and Walton, the water came gushing through my house, put a crack into my basement. The water was pouring through like Niagara Falls. I have a video. I'll be happy to show it to you later, because this doesn't happen, I'm sure, to your house. We have drainage problems in that area. I have complained numerous times, and I get laughed at. I get told it's my issue. I've spent thousands of dollars. The last big rainstorm, my basement flooded. I had 3-4 inches of water in there. I have 2 sump pumps. I have drain tiles, and my pumps could not keep up with the water that was pouring in. So if you're going to spend money, please spend money on things like this that all the residents need, and not pet projects or any political favors.
Alicia Shire, 79 Tristan Lane. This meeting tonight been very educational. Thank you to the town engineer. I had no idea what our sewer system looked like in Amherst up to now that it's so old, and I just would like to express my concern that everywhere I drive in Amherst now, I'm driving at least past one new development, sometimes just on a short ride, 2 or 3, and I am wondering, as we're developing all these new developments, and of course they are laying new sewer connecting into our old sewer, is that taken into consideration that we are putting more load to bear on our old sewer system? Is that part of what is happening with all this new development?
Yes, so we have mitigation fees already that pay for sewer lining and I&I work that new development has to pay into. In the case of the Boulevard District, it's the first time we've used an alternative mitigation fee, which is basically on the heavier end of the commercial properties. But yes, there's an analysis done every time somebody adds sewage capacity to any of our systems, and there are projects that haven't moved forward because they haven't been able to clear that hurdle.
I'm glad to hear that, but I am surprised then to hear the engineer saying that on Millersport, the sewage is up to the manhole cover. How could that happen then?
So again, so what happens, oh, sorry, Jeff, go ahead.
So it's a combination of things of why that happens. First and foremost, the sewers were not designed to handle the wet weather flows that they get. Secondly, there's private inflow sources, and then you've got the older sewers that are basically situated on top of rock that are basically French drains. So unfortunately, even though we've got very large, deep interceptors, we do have some surcharging issues. That being said, the solution to that is further lining and things that we do with that mitigation money.
Okay, thanks, Jeff.
Thank you very much for that explanation. I'm just going to respond that recently, I think you all know, a development was approved in my area, which we were against, and we have already having issues with sinkholes, etc., drainage, and certainly I am concerned if in some areas of Amherst we've got sewage up to the manhole covers, that might happen in my area, and you can, I'm sure, understand why I would not want that to happen, right? Okay, thank you very much.
Kathleen Mirando, 81A Foxbury. We have a great deal of water problems around 990 Millersport, and there's a lot of building going on. And I just have a question. Unless we fix the problem, why do the buildings, aren't these builders concerned? They're building all these hundreds of apartments and with old sewages. Why does the building continue when we don't fix the problem? That's just my question.
Okay, so, okay, so the project itself is a path forward to create that solution. And again, it's funded ultimately by mitigation fees on the developers building within that district, so.
Chris Strongoski, Youngs Road. My question is, with the Boulevard Mall development, a high-density planned project, be possible if this didn't happen?
No.
$11 million that the taxpayers are coming up with to assist with the development of Boulevard Mall. Okay.
Ultimate, this project has to happen with or without the mall. So, the mall provides the funding mechanisms to get the project accomplished. Okay. Anybody else? Seeing none, I'm going to motion to close the public hearing.
Second.
Before I do that, I'm going to motion to adopt the seeker findings
Second.
associated with the project.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Now a motion to close the public hearing.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Next, I'm going to motion the bond resolution as it appeared in the agenda.
Second.
On the question, I'd ask our town clerk for a voice vote, please.
Supervisor Copa?
Yes.
Councilmember Berger?
Yes.
Councilmember Zuccalla?
Yes.
And Councilmember Marinucci?
Yes.
The next item on the agenda is Resolution 2024-339, an extension of Consolidated Lighting District for Miller's Crossing. I'm going to motion to open the public hearing at this time.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Good evening, members of the board. I'm Jessica Boudreau. I'm with the engineering department, and I'll be presenting on Resolution 2024-339 and also 340, both dealing with extensions of Consolidated Lighting District. Sorry. Okay. So you could go to the next slide.
Jess, you need to lean in a little.
All right, so a quick outline. We'll talk about the background and location of the project, the proposed district extension itself, and then a quick summary of the financial and taxation effects. Next slide. All right, so the first one is Miller's Crossing subdivision. It's an 85-lot subdivision on the west side of New Road, south of Millersport. It received final plat approval by the planning board in November of 2020, and as part of that approval, it was the resolution required that the subdivision be added to the lighting district. Do you go to the next slide? So this is the plat map of the subdivision. The area in red is what we're proposing to include in the Consolidated Lighting District. It's 55 lots. Just note that the area to the left of the screen, which is actually the south portion of the subdivision, is not included. That's a private drive, so those lots are not to be included in the lighting district. And there'll be 25 LED streetlights installed and fully funded by the developer for this. Next slide. So again, fully funded by the developer, so there's no bonding required for this. The taxation summary is 0.656792 per $1,000 assessed value, and that was at the 62%. If you do the 100% equalization, it drops to 0.407211 per $1,000 assessed value. So for a $300,000 assessed property, the annual tax is $122.16. And that is that one.
questions from the board first on the extension of the consolidated lighting district for Miller's Crossing? Second, are there questions from the audience regarding the extension of the lighting district?
Chris Strongoski, Youngs Road. My question is, if the developer is paying for the LED lights, what is the cost for those lights by the developer?
I don't have an estimate on that. I'm not sure how much it costs.
Okay. That's, I mean, it's a little bit inconsequential, right? We're basically taking ownership of the hardware itself. So the question then, when you have your value tables up there, that is relative to the cost for maintenance
Yes, yeah, yep.
and repair over time.
Yep.
Can you tell me what period that's taken over?
They're added to the lighting district.
Right.
The residents of that neighborhood have to sign a petition saying they want lights, and they pay the taxes for their lighting district. We all pay a small amount for a townwide district, and then different neighborhoods pay based on their lighting district.
Are there any representatives, I mean, are there any representative homeowners from the district here? Is there anybody else in the audience who has to comment on this? Can you please come forward and speak into the microphone?
My name, can you hear me?
Yes.
Can you hear me? My name is Karen Russell. I've lived at 600 Casey Road for 50-plus years. My question to you is, a cul-de-sac, is that considered a neighborhood? As far as this lighting is concerned, is a cul-de-sac considered a neighborhood?
In this case, this new development is considered a neighborhood, yes.
I'm sorry, I didn't understand that.
The new development is considered a neighborhood,
So it could consist of 10 houses, correct?
yes.
What constitutes a neighborhood? 10 houses? I'd like to ask this group. Do 10 houses consist of a
Okay,
neighborhood?
so the fundamental tenets here are whether or not a group of residents can opt in to create a lighting district and decide that they would like to pay tax to support lights. In
So
this
it's-
case, they are able to do that.
So it's separate. It's actually a separate from people that live, like, say, on Casey Road, and the cul-de-sac might be Brookshire.
There is a general lighting district. These people will add more funding to the general lighting district as well.
So the people around it have no control of the proposed alumina that comes from these lights, the aluminum, right? You know what that means?
It's a town standard
Yeah.
that's set.
Well, what is that standard?
I don't know offhand, but
Well, don't you think you should know what that
no,
standard is?
I don't know.
Well, why not?
Every technical
It's not technical.
component.
It's not
okay.
really technical. It involves plants, animals, human beings, and everything else you can imagine. Because that alumina that you put into those lights far exceeds the norm. You do not lower the wattage. You do not consider what the wattage may be. And that lighting is what we call trespass on our neighborhoods. We can have a neighbor that will have 1 million lights around their house, and the house next to it gets lit up like Walmart parking lot. Now, what do you do to protect the pre-existing neighbors that have been there for 50-plus years? What?
If there are lights that are aimed or pointed directly at your property and are cause for and are in excess of what you would anticipate being able to deal with in a neighborhood, then the building department will come out and assess the scenario, ask neighbors to put shields on their lights, redirect lights, or lower the lumens. Have you called the building department about this issue?
Mr. Kupla, do you think I would not be up here if I didn't do all that homework?
So, it sounds like,
Okay.
Your question is less about the street light expansion.
Well, it's all in conjunction with it, because the houses are right next to those huge lights that spread light, and they don't put shades, or they don't direct the light down. All of those lights in the town and the community and everywhere should be directed down, not up to Mars. What are we trying to do here?
Okay.
You
So
know,
again, the question in front of us is whether or not that community should be allowed to create their lighting district and have streetlights on their street.
It seems as though you have fewer numbers that are delegating all of the lighting for the people that were there in majority, and we had no say in that at all whatsoever. We need to look into the proper lumina, the proper wattage, how many, and where they're going. Right now, my house is inundated by lighting all around my property. I have an acre and a half. And all I get into my rooms, sorry, wait, I have one more point. Do you know all of that lighting just goes right into my house? Why? Why?
Where is your address?
600 Casey Road, and I would invite anyone over there during an evening so that anyone can attest to what that level of lighting is into that house.
Got it. But this new road subdivision impacts the lighting levels at your house?
Well, not my house, but how many other people? I mean, I don't speak just for my house, I'm here for my community.
I got it.
I'll just add that once the lighting district is extended, they do have to supply plans for review and approval to make sure the lumens meet our town code, so.
Okay. All right, anybody else have any comments about this specific lighting district? Seeing none, I'm going to motion to close the public hearing.
Second.
Do I have to take
Yeah, I think you have to seek
on this also? So before I do that, I'm going to motion to adopt the seeker findings associated with the extension of consolidated lighting district for Miller's Crossing.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Next, I'll get a motion to close the public hearing.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
And I'll motion to create the extension of a consolidated lighting district for Miller's Crossing.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Okay, the next item on our agenda is a public hearing on the extension of consolidated lighting district for Harding Road subdivision. A motion to adopt or to open the public hearing at this time. All in favor?
Aye.
You gotta turn the mic on if you're talking.
All right, same thing, Jessica Boudreau with the Engineering Department for Resolution 2024-340, extension of consolidated lighting district for Harding Road subdivision. You can skip that one. You can go to the next one. All right, so this one is an 8-lot subdivision. It's located west of Transit, south of Worley, between Harding Road and McKinley Avenue. The final plat was approved by the Planning Board May 18th, 2023. And again, as part of the approval, the subdivision had to be included in a lighting district. Next page. This is the plat map of the subdivision. All 8 lots are included in the extension on this one, and 5 LED street lights are being proposed. Again, fully funded by the developer. Taxation summary is the exact same as the previous one, 0.656792 per $1,000 assessed value, 2024 rate. 100% equalization rate is 0.407211 for a total of $122.16 for a $300,000 property.
Okay.
That's it.
Okay, other questions from the board first? Are there any representative homeowners from that subdivision? Next, I'll turn it over to the general audience if anybody has any questions or comments. Please come forward. Again, please state your name and address for record.
Gina Gentry, Bissell Drive. So there's someone that's paying, the developer's paying for these, right?
Yes.
Am I correct? Okay. Who is this developer?
No, in this case, it's Forbes Capretto, I believe.
I'm sorry, who?
Forbes Capretto.
Okay, thank you. So why were they not asked for the $33 million that we're spending out of our taxpayer money? When, if they're funding this project, why aren't they funding the other? Is there a difference between the streetlights? Do you know what I'm saying? If we are paying $33 million of our taxpayer dollars for streetlights that I'm sure half of these people didn't want, what?
Okay. I'll answer the question. So
I'm just asking. Maybe the woman representing you can answer because she seems to be a wealth of knowledge.
the project that you're referring to is a streetlight replacement, where we were buying and replacing existing streetlights. This is a new subdivision with new streetlights being added.
So the same developer wouldn't do both? Because I know of someone that actually did give you an offer to not have increase for taxpayer dollars, and you didn't take it. So I'm just wondering why wasn't this looked into when you were doing a 6-year plan of trying to develop this project? Again, it's another $33 million that could have been saved, that could have been added to the infrastructure bill that we are now going to have on top of everything else, because you just voted on it.
Okay, again, commenting on this component.
Jackie, I'm not out of order. Don't even put on your microphone. Go on, Culpa.
We're currently talking about the Hardy Road subdivision and whether the residents there are allowed to opt into a lighting district or not.
Yes, but I'm asking because of the lighting, why wasn't this taken into consideration to maybe ask this developer if they would be willing to come? I understand the difference that you're replacing old ones and you're putting in a new development, but there had to have been some sort of...
Forbes Capretto is doing this specific subdivision, and you're asking about why they wouldn't do the town-wide project.
So Jackie's saying that Forbes Capretto came to you guys?
No, that's not. She asked me a question about the builder.
Okay, I'm trying to pay attention, so you're distracting me. Thank you.
That's a no.
Okay. So that's the answer to your question. This is that was a town-wide project. This is subject of a Forbes Capretto subdivision, period.
Okay, thank you.
Okay.
Bob Doodle, 92 Chateau Terrace. Every time one of these subdivisions goes in and they get the lighting put in, what's the effect on the rest of the residents in Amherst?
So when you look at the overall, our overall lighting district, there's a general lighting district, and there's you're adding more households to the general lighting district. So the general lighting district is spread out over more properties. So that would seemingly drive the tax down, or the maintenance cost is spread out further. Again, we're in lighting district with 5 brand new lights. So.
All right, thanks.
Thanks.
Mahesh Sankran, 95 Ruskin. As a finance guy, I just don't understand this, so I'm hoping you can maybe give us a little more background on this. When you say estimated annual cost for a $300,000 property is $122.16, what exactly does that mean? Does that mean that the 5 houses in that subdivision their taxes go up by that much?
Yes.
And then, is there, to the previous gentleman's point, is there a flow-over effect on the rest of our residents?
Other than there's more properties that are entering the general lighting district, no.
So in addition to this $122, the residents would be paying into the general
Yes.
lighting district? And how much do people pay into the general lighting district?
I don't know offhand what the general lighting number is. So
Okay, all right, thank you.
Yep. Again, this. Okay. Anybody else? I'm going to motion to. Okay. Please come forward.
Hi, I'm Deb Kilborn, Arlington Road. There's a few things that I just want to bring up. First is, I don't know how many people here know about the Royal Parkway project.
Okay, we're in
It's public expression,
No,
and I have-
we're not in public expression.
I thought we were.
No, we're in a public hearing relative to the extension of the consolidated lighting district for Harding Road.
Right, but when are we going to be in public expression?
After we get through a couple more items.
Okay, I'll wait.
Okay. Okay. Anybody else on Harding Road's lighting district? See none. I'm going to first motion to adopt the seeker findings associated with the project.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Next, I'm going to motion to close the public hearing.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Next, I'm going to motion the resolution as it appeared in the agenda.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Next item on our agenda is Resolution 2024-173, the adoption to amend the seeker statement of findings for 1565, 1575 to 1659, and 1641 to 1703 Niagara Falls Boulevard, and Z1996-02_B.
Second.
This is subject to a public hearing at the last meeting. I'll motion the resolution. First, do we need to do well, it's not, it's an amendment
We're
to seeker.
amending
So
the seeker.
I'm motioning to adopt the seeker amendment at this time.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Okay. Now, the next item on our agenda is public expression. I'm going to motion to open public expression, and then we'll start with the two lists I have in front of us and move on to the next pages. So a motion to open public expression at this time.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Okay, when you come forward, again, please state your name, restate your name and address for the record. First is Andrea Morganti.
Good evening, Amherst Town Board members. My name is Andrea Morganti, and I reside in Gettsville, New York. On March 25th, a request was made to the Town Board members to reconsider putting forward an $11 million bond regarding musical fair. We indicated that this resolution should not be placed under a consent agenda, as it was not a routine or a non-controversial issue. Once more, the Town Board chose to ignore the citizens of Amherst. A grassroots community group that was established on November 9th, 2023, called the Amherst Concerned Citizen Group, decided to rally the residents and let the Town Board know how we felt about the $11 million bond. As you are now aware, the citizens of Amherst have made it very clear that this resolution needs to be placed on the ballot, and we are the ones who make the decision as to how our tax dollars are being spent. We collected 4,574 signatures in 27 days. Thank you, Amherst residents, for taking this possible. Another thank you is extended to all the volunteers of the Amherst Concerned Citizen Group for braving the inclement weather to ensure this resolution is placed on the ballot. Even when business establishments prohibited us from collecting signatures on their property, this did not deter our common goal. Some individuals were afraid to sign because of fear of repercussions. However, Amherst citizens who signed the petition are not afraid. This is still America, where we can freely sign a petition and not be intimidated. We hope this sends a clear signal to the town about how the residents feel about this non-essential project. The Amherst Concerned Citizens are not against musical fair, but we want to make the decision about being burdened with a non-essential bond. A statement by the town was released that the voters of Amherst have known about the Amherst Central Park and supported this town by voting for them. You were elected to represent us, to listen to us, to serve us, which you have chosen not to do. The statement goes on to say, based on this support from the voters, the board unanimously approved the lease agreement with Musical Fair and the bond for a new theater. As demonstrated by the overwhelming support by the voters of Amherst, we do not support that decision. Statements are continually being made that this resistance is from a small group of outraged Republicans. Let's make this clear. This definitely is not a true statement, as you will see by the signatures on the petition. Signers are Democrats, Republicans, and conservatives. I respectfully request that going forward at these town meetings, you begin to listen to us. You have just begun to hear our voices, and we will again become vocal if you choose to ignore us. They say you can't fight city hall. Well, we did it. The Amherst citizens are taking back their town, and this is the first of many initiatives that we will be pursuing. Thank you.
All right. Dennis Hoban.
Dennis Hoban, 216 California Drive. Now is the winter of our discontent. That's a quote from William Shakespeare, King Richard III, Act 1. They'll probably be saying that at the theater soon. You're cutting into my time. All right, let's circle back. The LED conversion of our streetlights is an unmitigated disaster. The town has borrowed $33 million before interest, while the village of Waynesville did the same work, albeit on a smaller scale, for $20,000 through a maintenance program with National Grid. The village then received money from New York State, lowering the cost to $6,000. Let's move on. Supervisor Culpa has hired a multitude of people, not in the police department or the highway department, where they are needed, but administrative workers to help him and the board with work that they should be doing. Let's move on. Just recently, myself and a group of concerned citizens collected signatures for a referendum. As I and many others worked tirelessly for over 3 weeks, I was amazed at the overwhelming response from Amherst residents. It was heartwarming to see so many people wanting to sign our petition to vote on the $11 million this board wanted to borrow to build a theater at Westwood. Let it be known that we are not against musical fair. We are against the spending of our tax dollars for non-essential projects, especially especially when we are hit with an 11.4 property tax increase and then reassessed. Well, let's move on. Another project that requires our attention is the Royal Parkway Sports Complex, which will cost taxpayers $7.4 million. To simplify, let's just call this what it is, the Damon University Sports Center. Why is taxpayer money being spent to provide a private institution with a sports complex? Let's move on. Let's move on. Municipalities should provide services and maintain infrastructure. That's it. We should not be routinely buying and selling real estate, and we should not be building facilities for nonprofits and private universities. Also, it will be Amherst taxpayers who will bear the cost of maintaining such facilities. Lastly, we should not be bailing out developers. I'm not opposed to development, and the town should support these initiatives when appropriate, but we should not be paying for them. Thank you.
I'm on the list though, right?
Gina Gentry, Bissell Drive. First of all, I know there's some students here tonight, so I wanted to say to the students, please take note of how not to run government. And make sure that when you vote, you don't vote for anybody on this board because they will waste your taxpayer dollars. So my goal is to open up the discussion of how you are unfit to serve in a government position. Last meeting, there was a gentleman that was up here that did no wrong. He was simply speaking. He went over his 3-minute time, which I'm sure if we ask the lawyer, there's no case law defending the fact that at 3 minutes, you should be removed by a police officer. Our officers are not here for you, Brian Culpa. They are here to protect us. So when you asked for that man to be removed, you showed your dictator qualities. Please remember, and it's all on video, so if anybody wants to go back to the March 25th, he asked for a man to be removed by the police. Okay. Secondly, we're spending all this money. We've talked about this nonstop. When are you going to renew the contracts for the CSEA workers that have been without a contract since December? They are workers that, again, they're here tonight. Click in the button to make sure that this doesn't go over fire code. But you are not renewing their contract. It's been 6 months, but you have no problem pushing through any of your personal projects that you want. Also, I was on that committee or helping to get signatures, and I will verify the fact that it was not just Republicans that signed that. There were multiple conversations I had where one described themselves as the most left possible liberal you can, as she said. One is a Ronald Reagan Republican, and others as conservative. There were many people, though, that I will tell you, Brian, were not satisfied with the job that you are doing in this office. And the next election, whether you're going to rerun or not, you better watch out. I'm going to tell you that, again, you need to resign your position as of tonight. And I need everybody to join me and say, resign, resign, because this is enough. Enough is enough, Brian.
Okay, thank you. Judy Ferraro.
Dan Ryder, 38 Garden Parkway in the Village. I'm going to hammer you again on this reserve funds, okay? I work with spreadsheets all day long that are 25 columns wide and 25 columns deep, but I'm sure many of the people in the audience do the same thing, okay? It's standard practice in office procedures today. Why can't we have a budget monitoring report that goes right on the agenda sheet every 2 weeks, okay? So that we know where this town sits, okay? I can do it with my checking account, my savings account, my other stuff. It's all on my computer. It isn't rocket science. And I think we should put on there what the reserve funds are in total for the $168 million budget, and then for the individual funds, like the sewer fund. Thank you.
Judy Ferraro.
Judy Ferraro, 213 Donnelly. Are you all getting the message that the Amherst people are tired of your brazen disregard of their well-being and their money? The deficit spending on non-essential million-dollar ego-stroking projects will no longer be tolerated. The permissive referendum on the latest $11 million for musical fair on Westwood, in addition to it being part of the 11.4% tax increase, was a bridge too far in your arbitrary decision-making. Decisions that invariably ignore the voice of the people and yet burden them with the bill. The bill that does not provide empirical evidence of cost comparisons, details long and short term, and cost overruns during this economic downturn and high inflation that is growing daily. The Amherst people have endured a string of arbitrary punishing mandates. The museum's multi-million-dollar move from a perfect environment 8 miles away to one of certain chaos on Westwood, not only for the people, but the farm animals. The people are deemed irrelevant. Not surprising that animals, whether farm or wildlife, are also. It's all about the money. It is all about the money and how it can be confiscated from the people and transferred to Copa's punch bowl for his elite mega donors to indulge. The LED lights, part of the 11.4% tax increase, is another arbitrary mandate with no empirical evidence that it will be cost-effective or beneficial. After 5 years of clear-cutting acres of trees and vegetation throughout Amherst, Copa now talks of planting 1 million trees, where again the math is glaringly illogical and reeks of another ploy to convince the uninformed that he is what he isn't. Someone who cares about the welfare of the people and their environment. The people have awakened to the lies, gaslighting, and games being played against them. They are not going away. They will not sit back and watch their beloved town be incrementally destroyed by Culpa and his well-paid, taxpayer-funded wrecking crew. There is a name for the opposite of the Midas touch. It is Murphy's touch. That is what Supervisor Culpa obviously has. Thank you.
John Traver, 234 Mount Vernon Road. Yesterday, I emailed all the members of the town board, the supervisor, and the supervisor's chief of staff, looking for the top 3 reasons for the recent tax increase. 2 people responded. Mr. Zagala was one of them. He advised that he would get back to me later this week as he was preparing for tonight's meeting. The second person was Ms. Marinucci. She responded that her understanding of the increase was due to personnel costs, an increase in bond interest rates, and 2 recently settled lawsuits. In the past, the supervisor had said the hiring of police officers was part of the increase. As I mentioned at the last meeting, the police department is struggling to keep up with retirements and is still not up to full manpower. The highway department is still short 5 to 6 employees. If 2 of the largest departments in the town are not up to full manpower and you have to raise taxes to pay for these essential personnel, why are you borrowing money at high interest rates to pay for expensive pet projects such as Westwood and the athletic field for Damon? Also, if we have infrastructure issues such as the $42 million project or now $21 million project that we're responsible for in Eggertsville, why are we bonding out these pet projects? Most importantly, if we can't pay our personnel, why does the town supervisor keep hiring exempt employees? In this folder is a list of approximately 26 employees, and some of the directives are, please create and appoint such and such and such and such with a name attached with a salary. We're talking about, since 2018, either the creation or the promotion of roughly 26 employees to the tune of probably $3 to $4 million. These are FOIL requests, so if I'm misinterpreting them, we'll correct that, I guess. Also, out of the 26 positions, 11 of them had a residency waiver, meaning they did not live in the town. And by that way, 1 was for a 3-month waiver, the rest of them were for 6-month waivers. So I have to ask again, why are we bonding out pet projects at high interest rates, and why are we hiring unnecessary personnel at an unreasonable cost to taxpayers? On another note, I would like to congratulate the supervisor on his honorary doctorate from Damon University. You can see that on the internet. Hold it. Also, I would like to commend him for being on the advisory board of Damon. So the question should be raised, is the town of Amherst is going to spend $7 million for an athletic field on Royal Parkway for Damon University to use? Why? Thank you.
Okay, Allison Segraves.
Hi, I'm Allison Segraves, Amherstdale Road. Okay, I have a few topics. I have more than I could cover in 3 minutes, so this is kind of fun to decide what I'm going to talk about. But I guess I would like to start by saying that I believe this is my 8th meeting in a row that I've attended, and while it's outrageous that I need to say this, I want you to be aware that I am a registered independent. Why I should have to tell you that? I think you think that this is all a bunch of MAGA people, and I just want you to know that the people that signed those petitions included a musical fair season ticket holder who said, I love musical fair, but I don't think the town should be supporting this. So just, I don't think that you really have an appreciation for who you're talking to. Okay, so let's start with some follow-up on the Ethics Committee, which I raised that issue back in January and noted that the committee that's supposed to be overseeing conflicts of interest had not met in 4 years. The committee has, and by the way, I foiled the long-form disclosures of all the key employees last year, and I have the boards for this year. And I know Mr. Zucala, thank you. You did have a meeting, and you have another meeting coming up. And it is my expectation that this board will do its proper due diligence and ensure that all of the town board and critical office holders as defined in the town code adhere to the standards that Deborah Buckeye did when she filled out her form as deputy supervisor. This is her non-disclosure form. It came with 3 attachments, very, very thorough. Everyone should know that the requirements for disclosure are significant in terms of all of your affiliations. I've looked at yours, Mr. Culpa. I don't believe that you have your LLC, and news to me you're on the advisory board because it wasn't on your non-disclosure agreement. In fact, I have Mr. Lavins, and apparently his only source of income last year was an LLC called Forever Present. Maybe people want to look that up on Instagram. He or his wife don't have any other job, according to what he filed last year and what he has filed this year, unless the one this year has been amended since I foiled it, because maybe it was returned for being insufficient. In addition, Joe McMahon, nothing here, and Jackie Berger. It seems your source of income is some kind of education consulting. And I just want to mention also that I see that you live on Bernhardt Drive. We both live in Snyder. Apparently we're neighbors. I was just looking up to see if you're in the Snyder Neighborhood Facebook group, because if you are, you will be aware that the talk of the neighborhood every day is how many cars have been broken into or stolen. First, people would get lectured on the fact that they didn't lock their cars. Then they would get lectured on the fact that they bought a Kia or a Hyundai. Then they got lectured that, well, at this point, cars are just being stolen right out of the driveways. So we have a serious problem. I don't even feel safe in this neighborhood anymore. So quite frankly, I go to my other house in another town in Erie County because I don't feel safe in Amherst, which used to be, when we bought our house, the safest town in America.
Good evening, town board members. My name is Jerry DeCosmo from Meyer Road. I want to take this opportunity to bring back to your attention the Local Law 2024-116 Transparency in Budget Process proposed by Councilman Lavin and passed on the consent agenda on March 11th, 2024. I have recently looked through the town's website for any references to the 2025 budget without any luck. I'm sure that the budget process is taking place, and I was hoping to see something that pointed me in the direction of the process. I was able to find specific details about the 2024 adopted budget, historical adopted budgets, financial information dating from 2013 to 2022, referring to audited financial statements, but nothing about the 2025 budget. I know that we had provided you with many suggestions about how you could make the budget process more transparent for the benefit of the public, giving this law real teeth and giving the public some confidence that this law wasn't an empty gesture. You seem to feel the most value was in offering budget workshops, so I plugged that into the keyword directory and nothing came up. I'm very disheartened that there doesn't appear to be any progress in engaging the residents in the budget process to this point. I'm standing here so that this doesn't become a forgotten or lost item. Again, we the people want to be educated about the budget process. So I'm asking you, where are you and where are we regarding this most important issue? How our tax money is spent in the town of Amherst.
When can we expect workshops to begin? We are anxious to take part and develop understanding of this most critical operation of the town. Thank you for your attention, and we look forward to more concrete focus on the budget.
So just to clarify, so the 25 budget doesn't officially start, we don't start working on that until we're done with the audit. We're just completing our 2023 audit. So now we are going to begin 25 budget. So we're just indicating to department heads that we need to look at their 25 budgets now. So it's most likely to ramp up over the next 3 to 4 months. And usually we kind of hit the ground running in May. But that's with departments internal. We won't really know much on terms of a lot of our revenues until we get to June or July. Shelley Schratz, you're next.
Good evening. Can everybody hear me? Okay. First, I too would like to thank all the residents in the town of Amherst that circulated those petitions for that referendum. And it is apparent that what they think and what they have to say is truly relevant. And it has to stop right here, right now. Now, I have a question for Fran. I don't know if you can answer this, but myself and Lori did come to the clerk's office to see about the petitions and if they were sent down to the county, to the Board of Elections, correct? Okay. Did we receive a receipt back from the Board of Elections that they received them?
So notifying them, they called me and they sent somebody down to pick them up.
Okay.
I was there. I took them out of the safe,
Gotcha.
handed it to them. We had them sign a receipt.
Okay. And you have
then
a
they
copy
took
of
them.
that?
I'm sorry?
You have a copy of them signing it?
Of course,
Okay,
yes.
good. Okay. So now my question to you is this, to the board. Does anyone know where or what the next step is for this? Anybody have any clues? Where we're at? Because I do. I do. No. I do know, because there was a pause. Let me tell you what I know. I know last week thousands of concerned citizens submitted over 4,000 signatures to the town to force a town-wide vote on the $11 million bond resolution to fund the construction of the new musical fair theater. The deputy town clerk sent the petitions to the Board of Elections for their review, their bipartisan review by the bipartisan staff of Erie County Board of Elections, okay? It is our understanding that the signatures were ruled valid by the staff. I want to also say that your assistant said to myself and Lori when we were there, these are fine, they're great, everything looks good, you should have no problems. Okay. So the County Board of Elections, bipartisan, approved them, okay? We were only 200 didn't qualify. But now let's make this very clear. The reason the people did what they did is because they have no voice. The reason the people did what they did, because this is a bipartisan thing. This is about our town. It's not about a political party. But I am here to tell you, all of you, that today, those employees, and I congratulate them, approved it, said move it on. Ralph Moore said move it on. Jeremy Zellner said no, we're not doing it. So I am asking this board, because my understanding is our town clerk can say, move it on. It shouldn't have gone down there, and I'm not criticizing you. Our town clerk should say, move it on. And I ask this board to make a resolution right now and say to the Democrat chairman, move this on. What kind of message does this send? And it's relevant, Michael, and it should come from you for how you called people irrelevant. Pete, don't tell me what to do, Brian. Everybody here has the same interest. It's not political. It's public service. It's community involvement. So I am asking you, okay, and he did subvert, I don't know if he's gonna do a lawsuit or something. All those little rumors are flipping. Wait, let me finish, Franny. So I am asking you, this is clearly an effort by the county Democrat chair and possibly the whole party, okay, to provide political cover for their allies on the town board. And we don't want to believe that. We want to believe you work for us. Respond.
We have yet to hear anything from the Board of Elections, so I'm sort of surprised that you have.
No, because this is Andrea's phone and I don't know how to turn it off because I had my nose out.
We have yet to be contacted, so we are waiting for the Board of Elections to make a determination, but they haven't said.
They made the determination.
Okay,
They've been
that's
looking at them
news
all
to me.
weekend, okay? I got called, okay? Lori and I went down there. They told us they would let us, I'm telling you, I'm asking you to pick up the phone, to do a resolution. Fran, you're the clerk. And they said, okay, and your assistant said, you could have done it, but you sent it down to them just because however you do it, and that makes sense. Give the people what they deserve, Franny. I know that's who you are. If they don't want to do it, or you got 4 board members up here, do you not want them to have it?
Give us a voice.
Yeah, give them their voice back so we can get back to being a town that works together.
I'll speak on this, if that's okay with the board.
Yes, please do.
So I have not received official word from the Board of Elections yet. They sent me an email at 4:45 because of the special elections going on for Congress and other things. I have the email, okay.
I believe you.
They have not, they asked that they needed some more time. They're gonna get in contact with me this week. Now, also, we have until midnight tonight for any objections to come in. I have not so far, as of right now, received any objections, but I need to wait to after midnight and to make sure that the court does not come with any objections, serve me with anything.
Okay, go
Okay?
ahead, finish.
So this is the procedure, okay, that I
but
must.
So when I was reached out to today, because they told us they would reach out and let us know what was going on, right, Lori? That's what they said. We'll call you and let you know, because we wanted to go watch them. We wanted to do our due diligence, right? And so today, they said, the whole county, the election board committee, they approved it, yes. Ralph Moore approved it, but he said, Jeremy said, no, I'm not doing it.
Okay, I have no knowledge of that. I have everything that is sent to me.
Okay.
And at 4:45 today, I did not receive anything yet from the Board of Elections other than what I just stated, that because of the special election and that they are still looking at everything and that they will get in touch
He
with
signed off.
Shelley. They did not give me anything. And what they're supposed to do is they're supposed to bring the original petitions back to me, which I have not received yet, with a written statement. I was told when I emailed them and they called me and they said somebody from the board with ID with the car is coming to pick them up. I went into the safe where they were, came out, handed it to them, had a receipt. They signed the receipt, and I was told that they will bring them back when they're done with a statement. So far today, other than that email, I have not received a statement for them. Now, what they told you, fine, but I have not received a statement. I will call them in the morning because I received this at 4:45. So I'm going to call them and find out.
All right, so I asked the board.
We're letting this
I
process
know she can
play
handle
out.
that, but Brian, I'm sorry. People elected you, all parties, all of you, okay? 4,400 people signed that petition. Jackie, I can say this. I'm not saying any name you don't want to hear. This is important. My point is, the people want to hear where you stand, you stand, you stand, and you stand. Now tell them where you stand. Has nothing to do with
We're going to move on. Shelley.
Let her answer it.
So on the question,
I just
Shelley,
wanna-
as to what you're saying, just so that I can answer, to my knowledge, I have not spoken with anybody at the Board of Elections. I haven't even spoken with the town clerk. So I don't know where it stands in terms of them approving it. My information, based on what I read for the state law, was that there were 5 days for people to object, which would end midnight tonight. As of right now, I do not anticipate that this petition would be overturned or that there wouldn't be sufficient signatures. We would move on to the next step. However, as of right now, we have to give the due diligence as a lawyer to appreciate the legal process. I think it's amazing what the town has done, and we want to be here, and we have to follow the process.
But if the county said,
We can't.
the Board of Elections said that they signed off on it, the two committees.
Yes.
Okay? Then, and so did the one chairman, and the other one said, I'm not doing it. Does this just become a pull-out game for the lawsuit and everything else that's going on?
No, again.
Jackie, where do you stand? Where do you stand? You're going to say no
Okay,
comment?
Shelley,
No,
please
just
take a
answer the question. Let them know.
There's a legal, there is a legal process. The legal process runs out at midnight tonight. So we're not going to, as a board, say, hey, we're going to jump out ahead of that. So we'll let it go, let it play through.
Listen,
Okay,
they,
James Fox,
they
you're next.
gave you, they
Shelley,
told you
wait,
where
have
they're
a
at.
seat.
I'm having a seat.
No,
Thank
Shelley,
you,
you've been
Franny.
up here
Thank
for
you.
a while.
Okay.
Please have a seat. Jane, you're up
So
next.
have you.
Brian, Brian? No? 5 days, can I or no?
No, just let it go. Jane, go ahead, Jane. Just let it go. Excuse me, can we please let Jane have the floor? Jane, go ahead.
Jane Cox, Harlem Road. I'm going to talk about something different. The first item I wanted to ask about was Supervisor Culpa's Resolution 341 tonight. There's 3 pages of CIP changes that were attached to the resolution, but there's nothing that indicates what has been changed, what has been increased, what disappeared. There's no explanation of what happened. And this afternoon, when you went through the agenda, there was no discussion. You did put it on the consent vote for tonight, so I'm asking if you can please explain what these changes are, because apparently there's a lot of them. And then the second thing I wanted to talk about was Resolution 384. I'm not familiar with the facilities department. I didn't know the town had a facilities department, nor could I find it on the town website. So apparently you're hiring a project manager for the facilities department, but I don't know what that is. And I see it's an exempt position, and I'm wondering why.
So, okay, go ahead. I'm sorry, keep going.
Okay, and then I just wanted to thank the board for supporting Councilmember Segala's resolution to fund the stop sign, or the school zone signs for the Bornava School, so that the people on Chateau will actually have a school zone on their street that'll protect the kids at the school, so thank you for that. But if you could explain those two other things, I'd appreciate
Sure.
it. Thank you.
So, amongst other things, there was a reduction. So the way that the Boulevard Mall project is shaping up, the town isn't going to hold it or do any demolition. So there's a $12 million reduction in the Boulevard Mall demolition. There is an indication of infrastructure cost spread out there, and what infrastructure on that site would look like. There is a $2 million reduction overall because we've overestimated some of our work on water lines. There is a reduction in the BNHV relocation, as that would just amount to, we proposed a study in 2025 to see, basically to test the feasibility of doing anything with that particular not-for-profit. We have adjusted I'm trying to go through some other ones that are major changes. There's a change in the wastewater treatment facility infrastructure funding as it aligns with the cryogenic plant, or the cryogenic plant replacement. There, we've removed the incinerator rehabilitation study. We currently don't operate any incinerators, so there was a conversation about rehabilitating incinerators. That's been eliminated. So those were primary, but once the resolution's adopted, or even if you look at the resolution tonight versus the actual spreadsheet CIP, we'll update the CIP and you'll see the change that's taken place.
That's what I would have liked to have seen, rather than go back to the originally adopted CIP. There was no indication on here of what the changes were.
CIP is long existed as a Word document file. We're switching to an Excel spreadsheet with associated links, so it's a little bit different format, but understood.
Okay. Could you go back to the museum project? You said that's being
We decided to fund a feasibility study for what the museum's going to need to survive. There was a time where the town of Amherst subsidized the museum at about $1 million a year when it was the Amherst Museum. Since then, it just kind of was cast into the private sector as a not-for-profit and expected to stand up. That's been a challenge, and we have to figure out what we're doing with the assets there long-term.
Okay. And could you explain the facilities department?
Oh, the facilities director, yeah. So we created a facilities department with the hope of bringing all of our town buildings basically under one roof. What was happening is the town for a long time has hired laborers, which are wonderful workers, good custodians, but we have gotten away from hiring skilled tradespeople. So the idea of creating a facilities department would put a group of skilled trades professionals, mechanical, so an architect, mechanical contractor, or a mechanical laborer, carpentry, electrical, plumbing, all under the same roof, because every time we were working on small facility upgrades, we were hiring contractors. And we just didn't have a density, or we didn't have a facilities department. So instead of just hiring out every time we have to do a repair on a mechanical unit, a small repair on a building, we're doing that in-house. The project manager is basically a foreman to coordinate the work of multiple skilled tradespeople.
Okay. Thank you.
The gentleman who we're hiring does not currently live in Amherst. And we advertised, and we have found somebody. They have time to locate in the town. Chris Strongoski, you're next. Speaking of people who don't live in the
Good evening, Chris Strongoski, Youngs Road. You know, about 6 weeks ago, the Amherst Concerned Citizens invited Angela Marinucci, town board member, to a meeting. And she graciously attended the meeting, and we all asked questions. And when it came my turn to ask a question, I asked, why would you support the spending of $11 million for a non-essential service, the theater, when we have so many pressing infrastructure needs in this town? And Ms. Marinucci responded that it brought the community together. And no, hold on. She was absolutely correct. It did bring the community together. You know, this petition, they're very, very difficult, and they're designed that way so that just you can't every day go out and send a permissive referendum. It would clog up government. But the amazing thing in this whole process was that it wasn't typical, because I've done petitions for governor's races, county executive, town board, right down the line. And they're not easy going door to door asking people for signatures. We all know that. In this case, we did very little door to door. We had signing sites. The people of Amherst, Democrats, Republicans, conservatives, independents, they came to us. They drove in the inclement weather asking to sign the petition. The people are outraged with the expenditure of $11 million for a theater when we just had an 11.4% tax increase. Everyone got reassessed. Enough is what they're saying. One of the biggest questions that came out after they signed was, how do we recall these people? And trust me, you'd all be recalled if it was possible, but it can't be done in New York State. And I just want to leave you with this one little note that experience that Dennis and I had one day at the signing. We were well past the time that we were going to be at Tim Hortons at the Tony Walker Center, and I was helping him put the signs into his truck. And I look up, and here is this elderly woman. I mean, she must have been mid-70s. I'm trying, all right. I'll leave it at elderly woman. But the thing was, hold on. All right, I'll give you I'm not good at ages. So she comes, I look up and I see this woman, older woman, with a walker. She had a walker, and she had a health aide with her. She went out of her way. She just had major surgery, and she walks over to us, and she says, with her health aide, can I sign the petition? I am really upset with what's going on with the finances in this town. And I told Dennis, I looked at Dennis, that's why we got to make sure that this petition, we get the signatures. And we did. With regards to Jeremy Zellner, he's the Democratic chairman of Erie County. Susan Grelick is a high political operative in the Democratic Party, has given lots of money to the Democratic Party.
You're well over your time, and you're
I
going
didn't
into
hear the bell.
politics.
I'm sorry, sir. The fact is, you know, if you had a bipartisan committee approve those signatures and one commissioner signed off, there is absolutely no reason why the other commissioner should object. This is just plain politics, and it's going to come back to haunt this board. I guarantee you that. Thank you.
To be clear, all that's conjecture. The Board of Elections has not given our clerk's office any indication that either commissioner has signed off. So I would ask everybody, please refrain from that conjecture. Karen Howard, you're up next.
I want to say something.
Hi, good evening. My name is Karen Howard, and I live at 194 Roycroft Boulevard in Snyder. I'm wondering, have you asked yourselves how and why this has happened? How and why, for what I believe is the first time in the history of the town of Amherst, that the residents have petitioned for a permissive referendum? That's over 200 years of history, and now, under your leadership, is the first time that the residents have been moved to exercise this right. We feel like this is our Boston Tea Party. We are revolting against taxation without representation. You act like we are the voices of a small minority, but as we have been telling you, we are not, and we simply won't get worn out and just go away. So what's the root cause of this current situation? I have a few ideas. I'll start with asking, what is the purpose of public expression? It seems that your definition is simply a legal one. Let the people talk as required, and that's it. You sit there during these twice-a-month meetings, let people voice their concerns because you have to, provide some responses at the end to select questions that were raised, and then move on to whatever is already on your agenda. Many of these people have spent considerable time undertaking research to present their perspectives, and you completely ignore it. My next question, what is the purpose of your roles as our public officials? It seems you believe that once elected, you can do whatever you want. With respect to the Amherst Central Park, which has been in the planning stages for years, while a community advisement committee was established, it's my understanding that you ignored their advice. You seem to go behind closed doors, develop plans, and then think you can simply push them forward, regardless of cost to taxpayers. You are public officials, and you should serve publicly as opposed to privately and secretly. There are ways to get buy-in, but apparently you don't think that's necessary. Also, our coffers are not bottomless. You need to make difficult decisions and prioritize spending. But instead, you simply raise our taxes by exorbitant levels, and you also want to load us up with debt for future generations. Do you not see how wrong that is? Here are some ideas on how you can rectify the current situation. First, convert the current Audubon Golf Course to a public park filled with green space and trails connected to the existing bike path, and a safe space to resume 4th of July fireworks. Then play areas and picnic areas for families, pavilions, and an outdoor amphitheater can follow as funds might be available. Next, I love theater. I want musical fair to thrive, but it shouldn't be on the backs of the Amherst taxpayers, and it doesn't have to be in a park. I'm sure there are facilities within Amherst that could work for musical fair, and they should raise funds and obtain grants to pay their fair share. Next, leave the Buffalo Niagara Heritage Village where it is. Maybe it's a cultural gem that needs support, but not a costly relocation. Finally, restore the Westwood property for golf, which is its intended purpose, making it an upgraded property that's well-deserved by Amherst residents and a source of revenue for our town. But those are just my ideas. The appropriate resolution to this situation is for you to really listen to the majority of Amherst residents and respond accordingly. As always, thank you for your time.
Dave Howard.
Hello, Dave Howard, 194 Roycroft Boulevard. My thing today is basically our bond issue and our bond fund balance. When Brian took ownership of this board, the bond balance was $74.6 million. In 5 years, he's raised it to $102.6 million, basically $5.5 million on average per year. The 2023 audited financial statement's not available yet, but basically, the bonds that were available for them to take money out, not saying that they did, was $13,207,000. They paid back basically $1.94 million, which brings the balance, the bond balance of that of 2023 to $11,267,000. Now, that doesn't mean they borrowed all that, but they had the ability to borrow that. So what we're doing here is just keep increasing this bond balance. We're never going to be able to pay for it. I mean, if we just keep going, $5 million every year, and who knows what's in the 2024 and 2025. So I really think we need to do a little better job at finding things that have to be done, like the sewer projects, and stop the other stuff. And I'll just throw out that the Amherst Town Park, if it ever gets done, needs to be at the Audubon site, and the western site's got to be golf. If anybody takes a look at the bike path and how that incorporates right around the golf course that's there now, it's just ludicrous to think you'd build a park across the street when there's parkland right there and you'd incorporate right into it. And it doesn't have to be extravagant. People are just looking for exercise and they're looking for paths. Very cheaply done. Thank you.
Matt Plunkett.
Matt Plunkett, North Hill Drive. To go back to the Boulevard Mall project for a bit. At the end of the last meeting during suspension, I mentioned that the other developers working on that project are under no obligation to buy the J.C. Penney parcel from the town, assuming the town is successful in condemning it. And the supervisor said that while he was in the process of trying to prepare some pre-purchase agreements with Benderson and Douglas Development in order to ensure that they would be willing and able to buy that property from the town. Otherwise, the town will be stuck holding a piece of property that it has no use for, surrounded by property owned by others. And at this point, there isn't a single idea of how many $1 million it might cost the town to condemn that property. I mean, it's an ongoing business by a large national retailer. They're not just going to go away quietly and say, we'll go for $50. It's going to cost some money to get them out of there. And there, I don't know if anybody saw it. I think it was last Wednesday in the Buffalo News. There was a front page article about the mall project. And much of the article talked about the nostalgia with the mall and things like that. But there were some things in there that I think are important for people to realize. And this is a quote from the article. Plans call for the nearly empty mall built in 1962 to be at least partially demolished and remade into a walkable, mixed-use town center that better integrates with the surrounding community with roads and green space. The surrounding community over there is almost exclusively retail. I mean, all up and down the boulevard on both sides, on Maple, on Sheridan, on Alberta. That property is exclusively retail and business property. There are some apartments nearby, so we're going to plop a walkable community in the middle of that. That makes a lot of sense to me. Culpa said the town is in the process of negotiating pre-purchase agreements with Benderson Development in Jamal in order to transfer the property back to the developers. There's no indication of exactly where that stands or whether they've entered into any such agreements. Parts of the mall are expected to be demolished this year or next, depending on who does the work. The town building department told the Buffalo News that no demolition permit has been issued for the mall property. This is a quote. The town does not want to do the demolition, Culpa said. Our plan is to negotiate that component into the future development package. I sure hope so, because the town of Amherst has never done that kind of work to benefit private developers. And go back to the Buffalo News, June 25th, and I know I'm running a little over here, but June 25th, 2020. Another quote from the Buffalo News. The town of Amherst, and this is about the Boulevard Mall property, the town of Amherst wants to begin carving new streets through the Boulevard Mall next year, with Jamal starting work on his proposed transformation of the site soon thereafter. The town would put down roads, sewer lines, and other utilities through the mall building and the surrounding parking lot to break up the property's monolithic appearance and open it for reuse.
Thanks, Matt.
You're welcome.
Okay.
There's more.
Justin DeFront, you're next. You're well over your time, but thank you for.
Well, Culpa and Jamal said that, well, the key Culpa said is getting current property owners and new developers to buy into the concept and using
Chair, motion out
public
of order.
spending on new streetscapes and infrastructure to prime private investment. Culpa and Jamal said the town needs to jumpstart the mall's revival by breaking up massive structure and surrounding the sea of parking. Building tree line.
You're just reading quotes, so I guess. Okay, thanks, Matt.
Yep.
Okay, Justin DeFront. Okay, Dave Adrian. Patty Meckes. Okay. Robert McVitie. Robert McCavity. Wait till next November.
Good evening, Board, and ladies and gentlemen in the Assembly.
Excuse me. Please give Robert the floor. Thank you, Robert. Go
My
ahead.
name is Robert McVitie. I live on Evans Street. I have lived in the town of Amherst and village of Williamsville for over 42 years. I'm concerned tonight. But before I express that, I will address the people in this room through the members of the board my appreciation for the processes involved and the hard work people are showing, that they care very much about the place where they live, to the point that they will follow the democratic process, get signatures, and see that change is in the wind. I have learned to distrust any enterprise from the private sector that requires a tax increase from the public. And we, in this room, represent that public. I have read between the lies and deceptions and hypocrisies with regard to the Westwood fiascos, Station 12, Boulevard Mall, 11.4% tax increase, the streetlight shell game, reassessment, the Buffalo Niagara Heritage Village and Museum, and all the unanswered questions with regard to what do you really want to do? And the palpable anger, justifiable, among the citizenry of our local hamlets, towns, villages, is unprecedented in my time here. And yet, I do not see bad people in this room. I see people who need to listen. That's what I see. And with that, I thank you very much for your time and your service.
Thank you.
We may disagree.
Okay. Julie Van Lente.
Thank you, in the right spot now. Thank you for the time to speak. I'm Julie Van Lente, Parkwood Drive, Amherst, and I'm here tonight basically for cost concerns that might be unknown related to the Westwood property plan for Amherst Central Park. My major concern was as an animal lover. I was concerned for how the move by the Buffalo Niagara Historic Village to the property at Westwood, which was deemed contaminated at one point, would affect them. The contamination issues were reported after a pilot testing by CNS Engineering and are part of town Amherst records. CNS Engineering, per Amherst and DEC website information, is currently involved in some testing in a small part of the property, which is listed as in phase 1. Thankfully, my husband, a chemical engineering PE, was able to read these reports to me as well as the more recent ones to enhance my understanding. According to the pilot testing done, some areas are listed as not suitable even for light industrial use, let alone anything that would involve human food consumption or animals, such as farm animals. I spoke with the DEC Remediation Department project manager for Westwood, Mr. Andrew Zwack. At that time, which was, I think, on the 19th, he did not know of the extensive and wonderful agricultural programs the Buffalo Niagara Historic Village centers on. All, I am told, are slated to move to Westwood until tonight when we hear a little bit otherwise. Mr. Zwack informed me that there is a higher standard of testing and remediation for anything related to human consumption or animals on the property. In my hands, I have several articles dated between 2011 and 2022 related to arsenic contamination and full remediation, which ended up having to be remediated again, and the lawsuits involved out in Middleport, New York, related to FMC Corporation. I'll give these to you later, and I'll email what I'm reading tonight after I clean up my adjustments. I don't know just how similar it would be to Westwood property, other than arsenic was the main culprit there, and arsenic is found in multiple places of the small amount of Westwood already tested. We are already told it would be about $10 million to move it from the current property. That property was chosen for its historical significance related to the original Erie Canal access nearby. It is also a larger property. The buildings are fragile, and the town already spent millions to help build what we thought at the time would be leading to our own version of Williamsburg, Virginia Living History Museum, which I would personally love. Wouldn't the millions to move this wonderful asset to a smaller land parcel, let alone the remediation costs and future issues resulting more unseen costs, be better spent improving what we already have? Town says it wants the building, which is climate controlled, to house the town archives. How about better spent money put into more unused office space, such as what you did with Niagara Amherst Recreation Center, which is newer and possibly easier to upgrade climate control issues? Or is the ultimate goal to sell the BHNV current property at a loss, as seems to be the pattern, to another developer? Common sense needs to take place, and just remember, every tax dollar taken out of our pockets is one that we can spend less on theater, museums, and all the wonderful things we hope to have in this town. Thank you.
Don Smith, North Lawn. There's nothing I can say this evening that these people already haven't said in great detail, who have been convinced me, and in many ways convinces a lot of people that are listening to this. If you're not convinced, then we have a problem. So what is it about the message they're giving you that doesn't sway you? If you are swayed, and if you're partially swayed at some point in time, if you're on the board, you have an obligation to sway those that aren't listening to this, the arguments coming forward here. Nobody here is trying to ruin Amherst. Everybody's here trying to help Amherst. And you yourself are trying to help Amherst. So why can't we get that together somehow? It's time to give up a vision that never was. The vision here is for a good Amherst. Maybe the Amherst Central Park that was envisioned by the people here that thought it could be a everything park. I know what the original Central Park was because I lived near there when I was younger. And this is not even close. So you've got to think again. You've got to start over. You can't hold on. You got to let go because things are going to get very nasty very soon. It's time for you to make a change in your thought and meet these people halfway. You're not going to get what you want. I'm sorry, it's not going to happen. As far as the facilities department is concerned, that was an interesting concept. When I first saw the memorandum from Dan Howard about the process for Amherst Central Park, it had the facilities manager making all the decisions. I looked around to find out where the facilities department was and couldn't find it. So I looked at everything I could find. Now I found out who the facilities department is. It's essentially the building maintenance department, essentially. The head of it is a guy named Dan Rizzo. Chief architect is a lady named Ann Defchek. There are a couple other people. There's other people there who are exempt employees whose job it seems to be highly important to any type of facility that the town wants to build, which if you were to think about it, Amherst Central Park is probably the quintessential thing they want to build. So these are the people who will be making decisions supposedly about Amherst Central Park. You can check out Dan Howard's memo on that. And finally, there's a resolution I want to talk about. The First Amendment, this Resolution 371. It's the First Amendment to the agreement with the County of Erie. In there, it changes how the money is spent for the money for the 2.4 million. And it was some of the money is being changed and moved from in-house contractors or in-house people to contractors. And then we're putting out $5.545 million into construction on Amherst Central Park. That's what I want to know about. What happened there? Why did that money go to construction? Thank you very much.
So, there's always been money in there for construction, and it was construction of a public plaza meant to house a winter market and a farmer's market. But
thank you for allowing me to speak. My name is Danny Farrell. I'm in 92 Park Haven Drive, Amherst. At the last board meeting, I want to personally thank the two Amherst police officers for not kicking me out for going over my time. I highly admire and respect the Amherst Police Department. They showed a lot of restraint and patience for not tossing me out. At any rate, with that being said, I have two questions for the town board. Number one, 3 minutes is really not a whole lot of time for a public expression. Is there a way to change that to 5 minutes? I'm asking a question.
continue with your questions, so I'll answer them at the end.
I'm sorry?
Continue with your questions. We'll answer them at the end.
Okay, all right, very good. The other question I have is I'm under the understanding that for about 25 years, the Amherst Town Board voted on the budget before an election. I'm not sure what month it was, maybe October or something like that. I don't really know for sure. Somewhere along the line, this town board and its supervisor changed the timing to that till after the election to do a budget vote, okay? With Sean Laban wanting to express transparency with his town board, I implore the town board to change it back to what it was for 25 years, to voting on the budget before an election. I think in this case, I think the town board would probably think twice before raising things up 11.4% on the taxes. So my question on that is, will this town board change the timing of the budget vote to before the election as opposed to after? Those are my questions.
You're all set? That's the end of your
I'm set with
statements?
these questions, yes.
Okay. All right, well, so have a seat, I'll answer those 2 questions.
Thank you.
With regards to the 3 minutes, we've had 3 minutes since before me. That wasn't something that I created. I don't know what the history of it was, something we could certainly talk about. With the second thing, with respect to town board voting on the budget, this year we did, so the reality of the budget is one where town board can vote to modify a budget. The supervisor creates the budget, town board can vote to amend the budget or modify the budget. And frankly, the past few years, we've gone right to the nth hour, almost to November 20th, to set the budget because of some changes that were going to be made. So I'm reluctant to tell you we would vote because I'm not a voting, I don't introduce an amendment. However, you know, we did this year say that we would release the final budget with more fanfare than we did this year. And that will be certainly out there publicly as it was this past year. But we will double down on our efforts to make sure that that is out there publicly once more. Again, there's a misconception in years past the town board would, you know, vote up or down and that somehow the budget could fail. It can't. It's simply a metric of whether or not they amend it. So we're going to double down on our announcements of the budget, but I'm not going to say that we would vote and have all or any amendments ready until the nth hour because this budget's big and it's fluid and there's a lot to this community. So I see some more speakers. If you're interested, please come forward.
Hi, Sam Smith, Fruhoff Avenue. First thing I wanted to talk about, this is not the first time this has happened to me. I showed up late, and the side door and the front doors are locked, and you cannot get access in here. So you just sit outside and hope that someone opens the door. Okay, so that's number one. Number two, I personally spoke in December, the meeting where the PUD was approved, and I actually spoke to you guys about what people's recourse was. And then rather than laying out step-by-step legal processes, I was informed that the only recourse people had was to come to meetings and speak during public expression. And that's currently what, and if you look back in the recording, you'll see that. And that is currently what people have done, and people's voices have really not been heard. And again, there is really nothing within the town defining the step-by-step legal process. If you were to go and look at many other parts of the town handbook and all different processes, it actually defines like certain things within the town, even definitions, but it doesn't explain what your next recourse is as a citizen. So all these people, congratulations for all the research that they have done. So number three, regarding the sewers, while the taxes have continued to increase, and I know I've spoken to Brian about this and how the sewers have not been maintained with previous administrations and the cost of repairing sewers have actually increased. One thing is, I've learned this actually from my fellow citizens, is that taxes have continued to increase since 2019, which is when they enacted the commercial responsibility for commercial properties. But since 2019, have commercial properties and developers have their tax rates or sewer responsibility also increased. So if they're paying the same amount that they had to pay their proportional responsibility since 2019, yet we know the cost of fixing things as time goes on continues to increase, the burden gets further heavily put on the residents, which again, back in that December meeting, I said one of the things that people are upset about is basic municipal responsibilities are not being addressed, and it's fallen back on citizens. Further, regarding the sewers, it was mentioned that about $1 million, and we're saying this as though it's something to be proud of, $1 million per year is being spent on fixing the sewers. That's not proportionally enough when you have over 500 miles of sewers. One thing was the Traffic Safety Board that was recently held. 4 items that were new were regarding Snyder. I only see 2 of them on the approval, so I'm curious where happened to the other 2. Last one is Bornhava. They have had, and the rest of the community that I live in, with the development and the demolition, there was debris that was on people's property. It was tested. We have continuously tried with the respective government bodies to get the information and the testing results. Some board members said that they were going to help, and still we have not gotten anything, and no one has further helped to look into it, and that is what I would consider a municipal responsibility of looking into it.
Hello, I'm Christina Coyle-Lenz on 64 East Chateau Terrace, and I am continuing the remarks of Mr. Matt Plunkett when he was unable to finish because the officer asked him to leave. So I also am in favor of 5 minutes. Not everyone will use it, but some people prepare and really do need it. I think it's disrespectful to the residents for them to be removed. So I'm picking up where he left off. Dover Coal. Now what I'm going to do is I'm picking up what Matt was sharing, and I've got his notes here. Dover Coal envisions a denser mixed-use community that has more public green space and is friendlier to pedestrians, bicyclists, and people who use public transportation. This is from the Buffalo News article. The key, Culpus said, is getting current property owners and new developers to buy into this concept and, wait for it, and using public spending on new streetscapes and infrastructure to prime private investment, okay? Hearing that very carefully. Culpa and Jamal said the town needs to help jumpstart the mall's revival by breaking up the massive structure and surrounding sea of parking. So he goes on to say about building treescapes. So the point that Matt was making, and I reading this, and these are absolutely brilliant points. The town is going to pay for all of this infrastructure, the utilities and the sewer. This is going to cost the taxpayers millions of dollars. This will completely overturn decades long of practice with developers building their infrastructure and doing it in their way within their projects. Now, this brings a really important message because what could wind up happening is that lawsuits can emerge because all developers are going to expect the same consideration. And who's going to be on the hook for all of this? The taxpayers. And with all of this, why are we having to jumpstart development? That suggests that it's not economically viable. I want to say one more thing. I don't know how much time I have left, but I brought this question up about 22 Chateau Terrace and the destroyed garage that was demolished by the developer, and there is still no electric meter replaced on the side of the building. The Historic Preservation Commission is an advisory board to your board, right? So you have to be the one to take some sort of action on this. With no electric meter on that structure, what is going to happen to the inside of the contents? What is going to happen to the walls in terms of moisture, humidity, et cetera? And secondly, they didn't have a demolition permit. You turned me off. They took down that garage without a permit, and they've probably been fined. So what is the ramification that you might place upon them to take and rebuild the garage with appropriate period relevant materials so that that property will be that historic gem that is the entrance to Chateau Terrace?
Anybody else? Okay. Historic Preservation Commission is not advisory. It is it's an appointed statutory board that makes decisions. So I'm not about to tell them how to deal with that situation. This board's capacity was to work through our building department to create the fines that we did. We have done that. So it's not advisory. It has the same standing as a planning board or a zoning board in that case.
Hi, I'm Deb Kilborn, Arlington Road. I have some comments and some questions. I'd want to start with the comment first, is that the front door and back door are both locked and no one can come to the public hearing anymore. People couldn't come back in, and they've been locked for a couple hours. I think the back door is unlocked now, but that's not fair. You didn't want any more people in because you had a packed house. But it's fewer speakers. Right. The Royal Parkway project is another project with Damon College involved that was brought through during COVID, and the people that live on Royal Parkway had no idea that this was happening because they weren't notified till now that this has already gone through and passed. But Damon College now has a 20-year free lease from the town. Yep, along with there's now going to be new policing and all sorts of other things that aren't going to be taken into account of. So I don't understand what's going on with that. The 9,600 streetlights that you're having replaced are not just streetlights, they're just parts. 9,600 parts, not whole entire streetlights. We could have gotten an entire streetlight that is solar powered for less. And speaking of hours, the website says that town clerk is open from 8 to 4:30, but upon me going there Friday ago, there's new hours posted that say 8:30 to 4. So now they're cutting out an hour out of their schedule, and I don't think that's right either. As far as JCPenney goes, I was told that JCPenney was suing the town because you guys declared eminent domain. And I know that that's still an issue for the taxpayers because I'd rather have JCPenney stay there than us pay for a lawsuit. Now, if you're going to take part of part of Boulevard Mall, and you have a place for you don't have a place for your records, which is why you wanted to move the old houses miles away, which would never sustain a move, you could store the records at the Boulevard Mall now, since you have it. Also, we have a lovely park on Mill, Amherst State Park, that not only does no one go there, but the website hasn't even been updated since 2011. So you want another park, we don't need one. And I would also, this is my question, I would like to know what is going on with your subway plans. Thank you.
Bob Dirtle, 92 Chateau Terrace. On the subject of 22 Chateau, the garage was torn down. Was there any study done on whether or not there was any contamination that was released into the neighborhood from tearing it down and having it still sit there for months? I mean, there was asbestos in the other building.
There was asbestos testing done on the buildings that had asbestos. The garage was wood structure, non-asbestos containing. I mean, if they tore it down, I mean, that's a question for our building department, but if they tore it down, they would have had to have a record of what was removed. I don't have that. It's a good question.
Nothing's been removed. It's still sitting there.
That's a fine question for us to find out. I don't know the answer to that.
I mean, this goes along with why is it taking so long to find out what was released into the neighborhood? Why aren't you guys stepping up and demanding that this information be released? You're talking months.
Yeah, and
All right, on the subject of the Boulevard Mall, on Eastern Hills Mall, what's going on with that? Is Clarence kicking any money into that? Are they doing any running interference for any businesses, there, or no? Do you have any idea?
finish your statements. I'll answer your question at the end.
Okay, I mean, yeah, we're running interference for Benderson, for Jamal, so they don't have to pay the legal fees. Is Eastern Hills Mall doing the same? Or are they letting the developers do what they're supposed to do and spend their money to develop it, not ours?
There are a lot of malls that are stuck because of the same lease issue. The Boulevard Mall and Eastern Hills Mall have some of the same lease issues with properties that tie up view sheds. Clarence's biggest issue right now is that there's no sewer, inadequate sewer to that site. So they're trying to figure out how to get Erie 5 to bring sewer into that location. So yes, these big projects require some government involvement.
Gemma Zotera, Robin Road in Amherst, New York. So my question is, you're hiring people out of Amherst who don't pay taxes in Amherst. Mr. Kramer does not live in Amherst, correct? So he does not pay taxes in Amherst, but you're going to build him an $11 million theater that he will not be paying taxes on. I have a sinking home in Amherst, thanks to Amherst, because they were told not to build there, but they did. I have a sinking home in Amherst. They were told not to build on that area, but they did it anyway. Now, my house was now assessed for $230,000 more, and my taxes went up $2,000. Now, how do you justify raising my taxes to pay for people and pay for projects of people who do not live in Amherst and don't pay taxes here? And one last thing, why can't Musical Fair go into that Northtown Plaza? There's parking, there's lots of empty space. They can have everything they need right there, and it won't cost us $11 million.
Anybody else? All right, so I'm going to motion to close public expression.
Second.
All in favor? There's a... Okay, I'm going to move on with our next item on the agenda is the consent. The next... I'm going to motion for a 5-minute recess.
Second. All in favor?
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Yeah, great. 5-minute recess. The next item on our agenda this evening is the consent agenda. We're going to ask our town clerk to please read that consent agenda.
Supervisor Copa, 1, 2. Deputy Supervisor Lavin, 1. Councilmember Berger, 1. Councilmember Zucala, 1, 2, 3. Councilmember Marinucci, 1. Town Attorney, 3, 4, 5. Town Clerk, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. Building Maintenance, 1. Controller, 1. Contract Compliance, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. Court, 1. Economic Development, 1, 2. Engineering, 1, 2, 3. Human Resources, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. Planning, 1. Police, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. Social Services, 1. Sewers, Plant, 16. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. Youth and Rec, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. Communications, 1. Consent, 2. Consent. 3. Refer to attorney and planning. 4 through 10 are all referred to attorney. Thank you.
Okay, I'm going to motion the consent agenda. All in favor?
Aye.
Next item on our agenda is Resolution 2024-349, Town Road Pavement Improvements Bond Resolution in the amount of $1 million. I'm going to first motion to adopt the seeker findings associated with the project.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Next, I'm going to motion the resolution, the bond resolution as it appears.
Second.
On the question, I would ask our town clerk for a voice vote, please.
Supervisor Copa.
Yes.
Councilmember Berger.
Yes.
Councilmember Zucala.
Yes.
And Councilmember Marinucci.
Yes.
Next item on the agenda is Resolution 2024-350, Facility Improvements, Facility Vehicles, a bond resolution in the amount of $150,000. I'm going to motion the resolution as it appeared in our agenda.
Second.
And with that, I would ask the town clerk for a voice vote, please. Yes.
Councilmember Berger.
Yes.
Councilmember Zucala.
Yes.
And Councilmember Marinucci.
All in favor? Oh, so it's complete. The next item on the agenda is public expression. So I'm going to motion to open the second round of public expression at this time.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Do we have a pen?
I think you may have taken
I
it
was going to
with
say, you
you.
don't need to sign back in. If
Oh,
that's
I
what
don't
you're
need to
okay.
sign back in.
No,
Okay.
just go ahead.
Okay. All right. Thanks. Do I need to say who I am again?
Yes.
please.
Okay. I'm Allison Saygraves, Amherstdale Road. I just want to say that I actually don't know what to say. This is shocking to me. I've been in leadership roles. I've managed huge budgets. I have never seen a group of leaders be more out of touch and tone deaf in my life. I really can't believe it. I mean, when I started coming in December, it was really just out of to get an understanding of why we had such a big tax increase. I was particularly concerned because my daughter and son-in-law had just bought a house. And I mean, you've heard over these meetings, you have heard a woman come up here with advanced cancer saying she cannot retire now because she cannot afford the taxes on her home. You have heard a single mother say that her kids now have to help pay for food. You've heard seniors come up and say they don't have money to pay these taxes. You've heard, I mean, what is it gonna take for you? I mean, did you see the tax receipts for Erie County were up, I think they were actually down. I mean, there is no more money available. There are some people, I'm a boomer, we won, the boomers won. I have money, but you know what? A lot of people don't. And it's not right what you are doing. It's not fair. And you don't really seem to care. And I'm looking at your face. You are not looking at me in the eyes. You do not care what you are doing to people. It is absolutely outrageous. And responsible people in charge of a budget
should not wait until November for their budget. You should be running numbers, running scenarios, doing scenario analysis, running spreadsheets, not using Word documents to capitalize your projects. This is ridiculous. You should know right now where you are likely going to end up at the end of the year, and you should be adjusting your plans accordingly. And why you're laughing at me, why you're smiling is a little puzzling. Because quite frankly, you should not be in this job.
When you're done. If you're done, I'll respond. Are you done? If so, then I'll offer a response.
I'd like to know why you were smiling at me.
You're yelling at us after we just took an action stripping millions of dollars out of our CIP, and you're telling us that...
Under the consent agenda. Under the consent agenda.
Okay, all right, thank you.
Okay, but...
I understand now. I didn't understand what
okay,
your
no,
opposition...
you don't understand the bigger picture.
I get it.
You are a bureaucrat. You're a politician. You're running the Culpa Friends and Family show.
Okay.
And we're sick of it. And I'm not a political person, and for me to get up here and say this is like somewhat embarrassing that I'm doing this. It's probably embarrassing to my family, but you know what? For most of my life, I haven't been able to talk because of employment that I've had, and now I have the ability to get up here and speak when other people are too afraid of what you might do to them. So I'm here to tell you that this whole town is wondering what the heck is wrong with you guys. So get it together.
I was going to say, I respectfully disagree. I'm in the town. We talk to plenty of people. I have plenty of feedback contrary to what your messaging is.
And if we were to tax you and your family, what then?
Dennis, yeah, go ahead.
All right. If you got some feedback there, I think you got feedback. That was 4,567 signatures. That was some feedback for you, Brian. On this thing, it just came up. I missed the beginning of it, and I think Fran Spoth was reading off things. I think it was Fran, and I didn't quite get the whole gist of that, quite frankly. I'm a little embarrassed, but I didn't understand what was going on there. And I also was wondering, it seemed like she skipped over the bracket that said police, and I don't know why she skipped police. She read everything else. Maybe I'm wrong, but that's the way it appeared to me. I was interested in, my question is, and I hope you can answer that before I get to my seat, but you said that the town is bonding $150,000. Are you trying to tell me that the town of Amherst does not have $150,000? Because, Brian, tomorrow morning, Dennis John Matthew Hoban could get $150,000. So you're telling me that the town doesn't have cash, $150,000? Are we bankrupt? I mean, that's ridiculous that you have to bond $150,000. So what are we buying? Are we buying equipment with this? We're buying an F-350 dump truck, and we're buying some, tell me what we're buying for $150,000 that we have to get a bond. That's ridiculous, don't you think? Okay. Yeah, well, take it from the top. You know, I would like to know why the police were skipped over whenever that was. You did not? You got everybody's talking. I don't understand.
Fran, did you skip the police portion of the consent agenda?
What was that for?
It's the consent agenda.
And what does that mean?
Resolutions that are going to pass unanimously.
Yes.
Town boards use the consent agenda.
And you talked that all over before in a executive session or something, and
Not in an executive session, in the work session at 4.
a work session?
Yeah, it's a work session.
Okay, then you just come out here and say, this is what we voted on.
That's
It's done.
been practice of the town of Amherst for a long time, yes.
Okay, so the 150, okay, I understand that. So that $150,000, you're trying to, can you explain that?
Yes, it's heavy equipment with either a 20 or a 30-year payment or PPU.
Can
So
you,
what happens
can you
is
be
we-
a little more specific, heavy equipment?
Do you have the exact, okay, go ahead. 1 second. So when we have heavy equipment, we'll finance the heavy equipment because we
Can
will
you be a
end
little
up,
more specific when you say heavy equipment? Okay, I'm sorry, I'm sorry.
because we hit a trade-in mark before the bond issuance comes up. So the town was bonding lighter duty vehicles. We've been moving away from that. But we do still finance the heavier equipment.
Sorry. Before I sit down, I'd just like to know what that's for. Because like I said, I mean, I have a small business, 40 years I've been in business, and I can get $150,000 tomorrow morning. I don't have to get a bond for it, you know?
If you have that in cash, that's great. The town has the cash available, but the being
what?
able to spread it out over that time frame is more advantageous on a larger piece of equipment. So
What
Angela,
time
please.
frame? I mean, you need the equipment, you buy it.
Okay, all right, thanks, Dennis.
The equipment is a 1-ton pickup truck with snowplow package, a commercial industrial mower,
Can you speak a little better into the microphone? I can't. Or up higher, I think, actually.
Okay. It's a 1-ton pickup truck with snowplow package, a commercial industrial mower, a 4x4 utility terrain vehicle, and a dump trailer.
That's it? Okay. Now, what is that for? Is that for the highway department?
It's for the
Facilities.
facilities department. They maintain all of our facilities like Harlem Road Community Center, this building, the building
There's a truck
behind us.
over there already at the Harlem Road Community Center.
Thank you.
Okay, well, it's all right, you don't have to answer my questions. I know.
We did, we answered. Thank you.
All right, thank you.
Understood.
Matt Plunkett, North Hill Drive. Officer, I promise I won't be on maybe 3 minutes this time. Couple of things. You mentioned the consent agenda has been used for years, and that's the way it's always been. For 25 years, the town adopted its town budget every year before the general election, and that suddenly changed. I don't see why the consent agenda can't change if that can. And then the one last thing I want to say, I think it was Albert Einstein who said the only thing more dangerous than ignorance is arrogance.
Andrea Morganti, Gettsville. I just wanted to make the board aware of the fact that the YouTube proceedings are being viewed by residents in the United Kingdom. I've gotten messages from that because they want to see how town government works in America. So you're famous.
Jane Cox. You had questions about the town board rules of order, so I'm going to give you a little history lesson. Your predecessor came up with town board rules of order, and they included a 3-minute speaking limit for the public expression periods, but we did manage to keep 2 public expression periods at that time. However, before that happened, there were no time limits on people who wanted to speak before the town board. This was entirely something new, and also included in those new town board rules of order was the consent agenda, which we had never had before by this board. So this board can change its rules of order anytime it likes, and we'd be willing to have a public hearing on it if you'd like to do that. Thanks.
Don Smith, North Long. I want to reiterate what Jane just said. I was there too at the same time when my the esteemed Dr. Weinstein did that operation with Steve Sanders and the bunch, and they put together this rules of order. And you obviously know what it is. It's your tool, okay? It's your tool to control us. So use it wisely, because if you don't, it's going to come back to bite you. So be careful with it. All right? The whole idea of somebody coming up and talking to you is to trying to get you to change your mind. on something that's important to us, important to them, because someday, all the thing we're going through right now is never going to end up going any one your way or that way. It's going to be a combination of all your ways. So let's start working on it now, because we're going to have to get there soon. Thank you.
Anybody else? Motion to close public expression. Oh. Okay.
Christina Coyle-Lenz, 64 East Chateau Terrace. I have a question. If the Historic Preservation Commission has authority, is that the board that we should be speaking to about 22 Chateau?
Yes.
So we should be showing up at that board
They
to
don't have a-
convey our concerns.
They don't have a public expression component.
Well, then
So
how do we approach this?
you need to have that. It needs to be a request in writing that has to get submitted. I'm sure, so Angela is the liaison to the committee, and if you contact her, we can set up
Can I reach out
for
to you?
how, yeah.
Okay,
Okay.
fair enough.
Yeah.
Thank you, thank you.
All right. Now I'm going to motion to close suspension of rules, or public expression. Thank you.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
And a motion to adjourn the board meeting. All in favor?